Good afternoon. Hello, everybody, and welcome yet again to another live stream on the 320 SimPilot channel. Thank you for joining us again this afternoon. I know it's been just a day or so since our last live stream, so we're running a bit closer together than we have been. Hopefully that's not too inconvenient for you guys. And here we are. Welcome to a rather grey looking Glasgow. I don't know what happened. It was so lovely a couple of days ago, but this is where we've ended up. So we're going to be leaving here and heading to the even more grey and foggy Faroe Islands today. We will be flying along on VATSIM, so if any of you would like to join in, you're of course very welcome. Hopefully the cloud bot wakes up and we'll be able to give you the route, but obviously just ask in chat if you need it. But it should become available shortly. Just going to jump into the chat and say hello. So thank you for coming along. Vladimir, good to see you. Soldier Kid again. Matteo Chewy, who's had to go to work, but thanks for coming along, Matteo, and saying hi. Swappy, good afternoon. Lizzo5, thanks for joining us. General Error, it's good to see you all here. Fly Guy 1, good afternoon. And Andy H1302, afternoon. Ben Pearson, who's recently upgraded their computer, they were chatting about on the Discord, so I hope that's going well. Martin Skov, thanks for joining us. Dave Geimer. I wish it was raining in Essex. Can't cope with the heat. Yeah, I think it's quite sunny in the south, but the north of the UK seems to be sitting in the rain. SB, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Mr. Espresso, hello, good afternoon. Captain Epidemic again. Great to see you rejoining us. Vladimir is just flown from Glasgow. Good to know. Right, here we go then. Let's find our aircraft all the way down here in the gloom, sitting on the stand we left it on after our flight up from where did we fly from? No, flight over. We flew across, didn't we, from Norway here to Glasgow. We are on VATSIM, as I said, but Glasgow is pretty quiet today. Not many people felt like joining us. Jerry Bauer, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. So we're going to head down and find our 320 SimPilot liveried aircraft. I thought we'd do that. This route's, as far as I'm aware, fictional. I know that some airlines do fly up to the Faroe Islands, but there's not so many in the 321s, certainly. We did have some trouble with the streaming last time. Hopefully we don't get any of that today. I have changed some settings around in OBS. This is a newer computer than I had last time. So, sorry, not last time, the time before that. And I've fiddled with some settings. So now, yes, the CPU will be taking the strain of trying to stream to you guys. So let me know how it goes for you. And if you're getting any lag or stutter, hopefully it's working out. But I do find it is quite difficult to keep a track of on my end. So do let me know in the comments if you're having any issues, and we'll keep working. I've increased the bitrate as well. Many of you will be familiar with this aircraft. It's the livery I'm using. So it's just our house livery, really. We use the Manta call sign. We've got a Manta on the tail up there. We've got our, obviously quite bright. It's been described as the party plane, which I do quite like. So I tend to stick to that as the general theme for it. But yeah, very bright. Hopefully it'll brighten up the day a little bit, considering how grey it's going to be for our whole route. Something I have noticed with the ground handling here in Glasgow, I don't know if it's because of the rain, but we've got the rain shields on the steps, which I have not seen before. So I was quite impressed with that. Quite a nice detail, I thought. Oh, wrong camera. There we go. Yeah, so these are always useful things to have. Although typically when it's raining you can't get hold of them, and when it's very hot and sunny they appear. So that's the normal story with those sorts of things. Great, so let's get ourselves undergoing. Carter, I'm sorry, thanks for joining us, but it's not a Neo. I've had issues with the way my livery is set up. I haven't done my livery for the Pratt & Whitney yet. I've been very bad at getting that done, and the livery I've got for your sorry, I haven't done the livery for the LEAP. I've got the livery for the Pratt & Whitney, but it doesn't quite work yet. It's got some holes in it, and I don't want to show your product with my errors in it. It's some of the textures are showing up as see-through and things like that. So yeah, if you don't mind, I will get that done properly soon for you. I do apologise. Vladimir says it's working so far, which is great. Buki Malis, thanks for joining us again. Good to see you. And oh yeah, so it is due to the rain. That's quite clever. That's a clever detail on the ground handling. Corrosive Moon, thanks for coming along. Great to see you. Right, let's get ourselves over into the flight deck. We're seeing better frame rates today, which hopefully withholds even with the rain. I've lowered some of the settings as well just to make sure that we've got every excuse for it to work. So here's the plan. We're going to set off from Glasgow and basically head straight north up towards the Faroe Islands, who are sitting in fog at the moment, so we may have to fiddle with the weather to see if we can actually get in there. The alternate is Alesund, which is back over in Norway. It's north of Bergen, actually. It's about an hour from the Faroe Islands, so it's one amazingly long divert, so we can't really do that. I do want to divert in a video at one point, but for now, I think that would be a little bit of a tedious, it would become a very long flight for you guys to sit through. Now, I did assign a key to make the Avitab. Oh, there we go. It does work. Excellent. Here we go then. So we're currently parked on gate, I think we're on gate 22, actually. And what we're going to do, it looks like we've got some traffic, according to Vatsin. There we go. What we're going to do is head up out by Gulf, and then do a full length 2-3 departure, head out by Lomond, simply Z-turn round 6,000 feet. It's quite a straightforward SID. 6,000 feet by Lomond, heading north towards some higher terrain. So we need to make sure if we have any trouble, what we'll do is we'll just turn back round and enter the hold at the Gow hold. So if we have an engine failure along here, we won't continue with that SID because it's going to get quite restrictive. We've got to be above 6,000 feet by Lomond, which we won't do on one engine, I doubt. So let's get ourselves set up. It's again in the usual sort of state. We've got the ground power. It's sort of as if we've just arrived. I suppose the fuel pumps might be off if we had just arrived. And what we're going to do is just go through the usual bit. So aircraft status looking good. Still the 2008 cycle seems to be in place. Going from Echo Golf, Papa Foxtrot. Oh, let me get this better view for you guys. To quite an unusual one. Echo Kilo Victor Golf. Quite an unusual destination, certainly. The alternate is Echo November Alpha Lima, which is Alesund in Norway. Costinex is a rather standard 5, which I quite like, really. It seems to work out quite well on the ToLiss. Going to cruise at flight level 360. Let's load in those winds for that flight. Oh, I've done it the wrong way around. There we go. Alternate in there, and then flight number is going to be once again IMX. We recently found out on the Discord that although I stole IMX, which is just the last part of my registration, SimX, all I'm doing here is you're going to have to change that because another airline actually uses it, so we can't quite use it. But we're going to use the call sign Manta, which is how I file the flight plan. It will be the 229, carrying on our little tour. That can be our flight number. Flight plan, departure from Glasgow, runway 23, and we're going to be doing the Lemon 3 Alpha as we already saw. No air traffic control here, so I've already set 6,000 as our cleared altitude. And what we'll do is, after Lomond, we're going to go direct to Awesome. Now this is an interesting route in some respects. You'd potentially be going oceanic doing this, so you might need to get oceanic clearance because you're going to enter the Reykjavik Bird FIR. But we're not going to do that. There's no air traffic today, so we don't need to. But I'm thinking of heading up to Reykjavik, and then when we head back down, we might try some of that sort of oceanic MNPSS based stuff because it's quite a big topic really, and it's quite interesting. It's something we haven't done. There is an alternative plan, which would be we could go from Reykjavik and head over to America and start flying around there, in which case you'll watch me struggle through with air traffic control because I will have no clue what I'm doing with that, but there we go. Right, so Awesome, from Awesome, we can join the airway Upper Lima 612 to Stornoway, Sierra Tango November. From there, Upper November 614 to Dawson. So let's go Sierra Uniform November, and then direct to Suda. So I'll insert that, and then Dawson, Sierra Uniform Delta Uniform Romeo, Dawson, Suda, and then direct to the airport. We'll put in an arrival as we get closer. Although actually we better clear that because I know the ToLiss doesn't connect the dots otherwise unless you do clear it out. So there we go. Right, so that's the flight plan. Secondary. Copy the active, but as I said, I don't actually want to carry on this SID if I have any problems. So if we go to plan, and I'll just put in constraints and zoom in a bit. After L-ban, I want to return. So what I'm going to do, I don't want to go past L-ban if I have trouble, so I'm going to put in a new destination. So select L-ban, new destination, Echo Golf Papa Foxtrot, which is Glasgow. And now just put in an arrival, so it'll be RDS to 23. Insert, and there we go. We have L-ban, and then it will just head off on that heading, and we could just come back around if we need to. You wouldn't tend to rush in like that, though. If you have a problem like an engine failure, you'd probably go and hold potentially back here at the Golf Oscar Whiskey and work it out. So let's put in the Golf Oscar Whiskey after L-ban. There we go. That's a bit more reasonable. Hold there at a safe altitude, work it out, go and do it. There's no need to rush straight back in. very rare that you'd think about doing that. Right, jumping into the chat just to keep up with what's going on. Soldier Kid, yeah, I don't know if this route from Glasgow is flown. I know that SAS, Scandinavian flight to the Faroe Islands, it's actually a territory of Denmark, which I didn't realise, and also Atlantic Airways. They take an A319 up there as well, and they're based there. But I'm not sure what route they do. Southie Fadsley, hello, thanks for joining us. Vladimir says the FPS has doubled from the previous stream. Great, that's a relief because I was a little bit concerned things had gone wrong with with how it's going. But I think putting the strain on the CPU is the way forwards here because my graphics card is probably working pretty hard at all times at the moment. More frames are smoother. Excellent. Oh, that's good to know. Dougal, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Dougal's still taking registrations for the Simwings group flight. If any of you want to go and join in, it'll be on the 8th of August. And it's going to be, it's always well researched. They put out information for you and you just put in a bit of a contribution into Simwings and then you can join in the fun with them. Right, so there is the secondary. So Radionav, Golf Oscar Whiskey. Well, I'm going to put it in. This is quite an old school way of doing it, but my departure is based on a few distances. There's an 8D GAU. It's not an RNAV SID, it's a normal SID. So the GAU is definitely going to be useful. And I'm making a right turn, and if I have a problem, I'm going to turn right. So let's put the GAU in there, and then I'm going to show it just on the right-hand side. So let's turn off the left and just put up the right. It's quite rare. You wouldn't bother having two needles showing the same thing because it just gets confusing on the screen. It's quite neat to just have what you think you need. Good, and then an ITB. Right, here we go. So now I've got my new button. I forget who told me about that, but last stream somebody in the chat said, why haven't you assigned it to a button? And yeah, it's genius. Charts, here's our flight plan. I've made us quite light. So the A319 is the only Airbus that goes there at the moment, as far as I can tell. I'm not sure if the 320 does, but certainly no 321s. It's about an 1,800 metre runway. The problem isn't so much the stopping distance. You can get a reasonable weight 321 into a sort of an 1,800 metre runway, no problem. The issue is more the way X-Plane has set up the runway. It's got huge slopes on each end, and I had a little go earlier, and my goodness, it really needs a bit of work to get in. I mean, it's not accurate at all. I've looked up some videos on YouTube, and they're definitely not quite as bad as X-Plane has them. But there definitely is a slope, so it's quite fun to have that model at all, I suppose. So 0 fuel weight is going to be 56. So let's put that into ToLiss. Loading perf. Oh, we're not taking that many passengers. No way. We're going to be very light today. So they can't take many bags, not many passengers, but we can take a few. 56.0 we got in there. There we go. Let's apply that. Gives us 0 fuel weight CG of 29. So 56/29. It did come up. Somebody on the Discord was trying to fly a flight with no passengers. They're doing a positioning flight, and they were asking, well, do we have an issue where you can be out of trim, because it said it wouldn't calculate the performance. And basically, yeah, if you have nobody on board, I won't fiddle with it now just to mess it up, you can have CGs that are really out of limits. And it's not impossible when you're flying even with passengers to find that there's just extra cargo's been loaded in one hold and now it's out of trim and you need to work on it, or it takes time whilst the ground crew try and figure it out or move bags from one hold to the other. Or if you've been a passenger, you may well have had that where you get told to move seat for the trim of the aircraft, or maybe you're told don't move seats. Specifically, you're not allowed to move around because you might wonder, why is half the airplane empty and half got all the passengers in? And it could be just to get the trim to work. It does happen. Generally, airplanes are designed to be quite full, so if they're full, they tend to be a bit better, although that tends to move the CG a bit aft. The 321 is quite nose heavy by comparison to the other two aircraft. It tends to have a more forward trim. But I suppose that's as a percentage. I don't know where that sits in relation to the wing. It's quite technical stuff that there'll be people far more qualified to talk about than me. Raz3 Ray, thanks for joining us. Are you going to get Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020? Yes, of course. I'm going to have to most certainly do that and have a go at cruising about in the... We'll try the Airbus. We talked about it on the Discord a bit this morning. There's it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be anyway the same quality as the ToLiss. Wouldn't really expect it to be. There's quite a few things done differently. It's a little hard to judge at the moment because the footage we're seeing at the moment of the new flight simulator is not controlled. It's not done by people who typically do full flights in the Airbus on their channels. They tend to do all sorts of things, so they're not. We don't always get to see all the systems that we might use when we set up the Airbus. So some things I'm not even sure if they're modeled or whether it's just that people haven't been putting them in or trying them properly. And I think it's very hard to work out what's going on with that. So I'm looking forward to getting our hands on it and we can have a more accurate go. But certainly it's not going to have some of the details we get used to, like the fixed info page or secondary. I don't even know if it'll have secondary flight plans, things like that. It may do, but yeah. What I'd be really interested to know is, does it have all the normal law, alternate law? If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I've done some videos on my channel. So, for example, these amber crosses are telling me we're in sort of in alternate law, but that's normal because we haven't got the engines running. But yeah, things like that will be really interesting. Because I remember FSX, when that came out with the A321 included, which was the first time Microsoft had done that, they did include some of the normal law protection. So you couldn't bank the airplane past the 66 degrees and things like that, which was, really good feature at the time. We've gotten quite used to it now. I mean, I've got flight simulators on my phone that do that. It's quite amazing, really, where we've got to. But anyway, there we go. I've totally gone off topic. Right, block fuel of 7.7. And you can see here that we've got 15 minutes contingency, which is quite a good idea today, I think, given that route. And it's almost an isolated aerodrome. The alternate is over an hour away, an hour and 8 minutes. So if you have a technical problem and you head to Faroe and you can't get in, you've got to divert a long way. So what if your flaps get stuck? Let's say your flaps are stuck at position 1. You can't get into Faroe because the runway's too short, potentially. So then you need to divert. But if you divert for over an hour, you have a fuel penalty if your flaps are stuck at 1, for example. And then that's going to make that burn even higher. So there's lots of things to consider when you have an alternate so far away. And I'm going to talk that a little bit more when we go to Iceland next time, certainly. But anyway, it's a long way, so I want that contingency fuel. 7.7 is what's required. Now, if we keep adding fuel to make ourselves feel more comfortable, we then have a risk of being overweight for landing, depending on the landing performance. So these are some of the things that you end up balancing when you're doing these flights. Certainly, you'd have to check your landing performance before you set off to have a good idea of what you might need. So, we lost something here. Is everyone doing all right? Stream issue. Refresh solves it. Interesting. I do apologise, guys, if you're having trouble with the stream. Hopefully, it's working all right. Yeah, I'm seeing that sometimes it seems to be slowing down. Let's see what happens. Update me if anything goes wrong. But yeah. So we're going to take 7.7, but I'm going to top it up slightly. If we add another 300, does that make it 8 tons? Then we're going to have about 700. We're going to have about a ton extra fuel. Plus, I think we'll make up a little bit more. So with a ton of fuel, we can definitely try again. But the weather is pretty bad. So it's it's a bit of a tricky one. I'm going to make the weather better anyway. So I'd say in real life, if you had weather as bad as we're looking at in that Faroe Islands, you'd probably take more. But I'm going to go with 8.0 because I'm just going to have to improve the weather. There we go, landing rate 61.1, which is fine. Alternate fuel 2.6, which is good. It reckons slightly less than the flight plan says. Finally then, performance. Here we go. So we're going to take off, config 1, active flight plan 2-3 with no shift. Flaps are going to be to flaps 1, flaps 1. Flexible temperature of 41. And we've got speeds 142, 142. 145, 207, and we got the trim here down to 0.4, 29.8. We talk about this a lot. We don't have to enter it, but yeah, 30 CG is going to be useful for takeoff. What you typically do in real life is take a note of that, write it down somewhere. Better also put on the fuel. How much fuel did I say I was taking? So 8 tons. Yeah, that's not enough, is it? Let's actually put it on. Which could change the numbers. So 142, 142, 146. Better get that right. And flexible temperature 41, flaps 1. There we go. That's doing things in the wrong order. Right, that's loaded in. That's the performance page. Yeah, to give you an idea of the weather, Here's some. There it is, Glasgow, drizzly, raining as we saw, and it's not particularly warm or anything like that, but I mean 17 degrees is all right for Glasgow, I suppose. But yeah, we've got our destination sitting in 650 meters visibility. The RVR on 12 is 1100. The RVR on 30 is 1000 meters. So yeah, pretty miserable. Fog, overcast, 100, 11 degrees. And you can see there, temperature and dew point are the same. So if you ever see that, you know there is a high chance of fog, because when these meet, when they're exactly the same, that's when you get the fog, because the air is saturated. It can't hold any more water. So what the dew point is it's the temperature at which the air is saturated, and you can't get any more water into it, and that's when you get the fog, because the water then hangs in the air. You can see it suddenly. Warmer air can typically hold more, or can hold more water, but as the air cools down, and that's why you get fog, you know, as the evenings cool down suddenly. So you'll have had, say you've had a dew point of 11 degrees all day, this temperature maybe was 18 all day, and then the sun goes away, you lose that heat, and that temperature drops, and if it drops quickly enough, it will hit the dew point, and then you get that fog in the evening. So yeah, it's quite noticeable. So pilots will always get, I don't want to say nervous, but they'll heighten their fuel awareness if they see these close together and fog is forecast. But there we go. So that is the plan. We've got that loaded in here. There is a bit of weather around in Glasgow, so I'm actually going to have the train off on that side, but turn it on the first officer's side. We've got our speeds loaded in, we've got our climb, nav blue, etc. So let's start getting the APU on. So 3 seconds there. Although the ToLiss needs 5, they modeled it 5 for some reason, but there we go. There we go, starting up. Get these fuel pumps on. Get the passenger signs on, the fueling is complete, and let's drive away some of these vehicles. I do like this. I do always enjoy the ground vehicles, and that's something I think the new Flight Simulator has a lot of this stuff included, which would be quite nice to have, certainly. Just jumping into the chat, Swappy S said, any plans on getting flight factor A320 considering now you have a better system? Yes, I've thought about it. The slight issue is I've invested, obviously a new computer's never a cheap thing, so I'm going to have to pace that out, but one day that's becoming on the cards. Hopefully they'll have another sale or something like that in the future, because for now, yeah, we'll stick with the ToLiss, but it's definitely become a possibility, and I really like their 757, so I would hope that the A320 is just as good, certainly. Ariel, thanks for joining us. Good afternoon. Grocer Moon says the ATSU page would be interesting to have in X-Plane and the new Flight Simulator. Yes, it would be nice. I think the FS Labs in P3D and FSX has it, but we don't have it, sadly. Carter says you can't turn on off the ADIRs or the cabin lights. Right, okay. Yeah, there's going to be a fair few things missing from the new Airbus. So we'll wait and see. If we can get the basic flying done, if we can do some of the Airbus style things. So, as I said, talking about normal law, just some protections and seeing the fly-by-wire, then that'll be great. There's a bit of confusion already about what fly-by-wire is. I've seen on some videos people talking about it. I saw somebody said that fly-by-wire is a way to convert erratic movements into smooth movements, which is not true at all. If you fiddle with the side stick quite quickly, the Airbus will react and you will feel it. That's quite normal. I just heard a sound effect for the cargo door closing. That's really good. So this is with the BSS sound again, which I really like. Yeah, you definitely hear that. Yeah, it's not about that. It's the fly-by-wire is just an electronic way of converting your inputs into the controls. Fly-by-wire doesn't mean normal law. It doesn't give you protections. You can have a totally standard traditional airplane with fly-by-wire, such as airplanes like the 777 that are much more traditional than the Airbus. The Airbus just has fly-by-wire and all the other sort of control protections and systems in it, so that they're slightly separate things. But yeah, you can still fly the Airbus. If you move that side stick too much, you'll feel it. And the other thing it does is when you move the side stick, you know, the Airbus does lots of things at once. So if you put in left input, it wants to roll left. It will also put in a bit of left rudder so that it's a coordinated turn, which means that this little it keeps the slip indicator in the middle. It does all that for you, but the result is if you move the side stick sharply to the left, it will also put in rudder and all sorts, so you really feel it. You can feel the extra inputs, so you still have to be smooth with it. But anyway, I'm talking about lots of other things now, as I have a habit of doing. Right, a few more people have joined us. Glenn, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And Ken Chambers says great, a non-MS FS stream. Yeah, no, I certainly don't have access to it. Yeah, we're going to definitely get plenty more flights out of our party plane ToLiss. So anyway, thanks for joining us, Glenn. Dangerous Brian, hello. Oscar, good to see you. Captain Peterkin, thanks for coming along. Good to see you here. Ryan A. Clark says A320 with no Vulcan support for a while though. Ah yes, yeah, the Flight Factor didn't have the Vulcan. I do remember that. So I don't know if it does now. I think, yeah, as Sophie says, I think it did recently. People like the A320, yeah. Matteo says get the 350 before the 320. It'll be interesting. Yeah, so that is a good point. It's made by the same people, and it's become very popular since its last update. I think that would be good fun actually. Right, I've just realised something I'd meant to do today was put better pushback on here. I haven't, so I'm very sorry. We're going to have to struggle through without that. David Doyle, hello, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here again. Right, yeah, Ryan A. Clark says they're wrong. Yeah, so it seems that we do have Vulcan support for the Flight Factor now. Okay, AP is available. Air for the passengers. Oh, some lightning out there. Get rid of the GPU. Ground control on, fuel pumps on. So that's interesting. So, yeah, there you go, it's fixed itself. Sometimes that happens. When you do a power change, you get fault lights, things like that will appear, and they'll appear on the status page. Luckily, that's normal. So you do have to, yeah, you have to look around after a big power change like that, because sometimes things do get mixed up. Okay, we don't need external power anymore. Let me just check. I have got faults enabled. Let's just increase it. Let's do it to 70 for this flight. Why not? Say that's default. Just in case we get something fun out of it. Although, like I say, a flat problem would not be ideal on this flight. Not at all. Right, so there we go. We are pretty much ready to go. And I'm going to go back to my normal checklist, which is what I used last time. So before the start checklist, it says Cockpit Prep, which we've completed, and you've got to check it for both sides. We've got the gear pins and covers removed, very important. They're typically stored behind the pilots, although airlines have all sorts of ways to store these things. But yeah, very important that they're actually stowed away. Otherwise you'll take off and won't be able to bring the gear up. Signs on auto, they are on and auto. ADIs are definitely set to nav. You'd soon know because you wouldn't have screens or anything like that. Fuel quantity, we got our 8 tons, which we definitely want today, and it's nicely balanced, about 4 tons in each wing. Lovely. Takeoff data is set, absolutely. And we'll just check it's on the other side as well. We want to check that these are both talking to each other because they're two separate FMGC systems. So we do want to check that the numbers are all getting copied across. Otherwise, there's clearly a problem between them. And the power ref today, 1003, which gives us about 30 feet elevation, correct for Glasgow. Okay, the next bit then. I need to get my joystick ready, otherwise I won't be able to do any of this. So just give me 1 moment. I'll get set up for that. Right, here we go. So check that's there. Right, thrust levers are definitely set to idle. And we'll run our little flow before we get going. So thrust levers are idle, parking brake is on. Oh, excuse me, windows are closed, flight door is all locked. Let's get that beacon on. Right, so below the line, there's a line in this normal checklist. Again, this checklist available if you want it on the Discord references and plugin section. It's pinned at the top. Windows and doors are closed, beacon is on, mobile phones are both off, thrust levers are idle, parking brake is set. Alright, let's get ourselves ready for push. Now, I do apologise. Oh yeah, we've got sharklets today. I thought we'd go for a slightly fancier airplane because I wanted a nice one for our flights up to Faroe. Now this is going to be tricky because it's not going to be a 90-degree turn. I think what we'll do is we'll just go straight back. Let's try. Last time we did way too much. 100 meters. What do we reckon? Place your votes in the chat. Avio Man, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well today. Yeah, we've got another stream going quite quickly behind the last one. Martin, good to see you. Strolling around the house and listening to your stream. Excellent, Martin. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, lovely. It's great that you guys joining all the time. Thank you so much for coming along. Dangerous Brian says it's hot and sunny in London. Yes, doesn't seem to be up in Scotland. We seem to be losing it. David Doyle is a fan of the 350. Interesting, David. Yeah, there's been a lot more support for it lately. Dougal as well likes it. Carter is a very big fan of the A300. Watch your wallet get even more empty. Welcome to simulation. 2000 on add-ons. Yeah, as I said last time, the A300 does interest me a lot, although it may be a lot harder for me to fly solo on my streams just because of the nature of it compared to the 350, which is probably more similar to the 320 than we realize. Right, let's go. 100 meters back, 0 degrees. What do we think? That seems reasonable. Okay. So we got somebody taking off over there. Yeah, Carter, I forgot better pushback again. Very embarrassing. Andy, I will use better pushback. I've totally forgotten to reinstall it when I changed computer, and today that went out of my mind. So let's go for this. I could do manual, but I've totally forgotten. I think I've messed that up. They do have a way you can drive the pushback tug. Anyway, here it comes. So we'll get ourselves underway. Oh no, what's going on there? We've got a Speedbird driving right through us. The 557, although they're in a more suitable 319. That's quite a good model for the CSL pack. I'm quite impressed with that. Really nice livery. Yeah. Avia Man, thank you. Yes, 34 watching, 23 likes. Oh dear. Hopefully it's not that unpopular, but thank you. Yeah. Ben Pearson. Yeah, I agree. I've been forgetting. Right, that looks ready to go. Let's get ourselves underway. I said we're leaving at 1/2 so we're a little bit late. Brakes off we go. Start the clock. Start engine 2. Oh yeah, that should go to transponder as well before we go. Starting engine 2. If you forgot that, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Air traffic would soon ask you, especially by the time you're taxiing, they'd expect you to have that on. But typically before pushback they want it on, so they can see on their radar quite easily. Otherwise they rely on ground radar, and not all airports have that, so the secondary radar is much better. Okay. Yeah, excellent. Off we go. And seems to be a smooth experience. Oh, I should have said, shouldn't I? Wow, we've gone a bit too far. And Glasgow traffic, Manta 229, apologies, we've pushed back from stand 22 and we'll soon be taxiing out to runway 23 for takeoff. Okay, there we go. Right, looks like they're done. Brakes set. It's a good start. You heard that nice big clunk. There's the available message. Engine's idling nicely. Off they go very quickly. Very good. Starting engine number 1. I'm not sure which stand they were aiming for. I hope they weren't aiming for our stand. I couldn't get onto my normal server. I was normally on server UK1 and I had to go to UK2. So I don't know what's going on in VATSIM today, if it's a bit busier. Captain Dutchy, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Hope you're doing well today. Glenn, yes, some good aircraft add-ons coming for X-Plane. Yeah, I think there are. I think there's a lot of good stuff to come. Absolutely. So let's see, let's get this engine up and running. Love the noises, great sound effects. Fantastic, there we go. Sounds like a good start. Available. We'll set this back to norm. How's the stream doing for everyone? Are we getting better with the quality and the refresh rate? Hope it's doing all right. As I said, we had quite a lot of trouble last time, so that's a good engine start. I've said before, these engines start too quickly. That was about a minute. It easily takes 1 minute 30 for these IAE engines normally, but there we go. Small complaints. Don't need the APU anymore. We're going to arm those. I wrote down 30 for the trimmer, so I'm going to set that. Do these hydraulic-y bits. Oh, not that way. That way. There we go. Good. Trimmer set. Flaps to 1. Transponder's just going to stay there. Rudder trim should be reset. It is already at 0. Okay, I think we're pretty much ready to go. What I will do this time is be kind enough to actually tell them what I'm doing. So we're going to go Mike Golf Alpha for 23. Manta 229 taxiing via Mike Golf and Alpha, holding point runway 23 at Glasgow. Right, let's get these lights on. Gloomy day out there. And check it's all clear on the right. Our speedbird has left us. Clear on the left. And I think we are nose wheel on the centre line, if I'm right. Yes, so it's just a left turn out. So, brakes released. Oh, there's that glitch. Okay, let's get around the turn and then do our brake check facing this way. Excellent. Sounds like it's working all right for you guys. So that's great. Thanks. Keep the feedback coming. That's a relief. I knew it should work. I mean, it'd be so disappointing if I spent all that time, effort, and money to change the computer over, and then it was worse than my laptop running before. But yeah, like I say, we put all the weight onto the CPU, which is over. The CPU is more powerful than the graphics card by comparison, I think. That way, hopefully, the graphics card can be free to deliver these lovely graphics, and hopefully that will work for the new Flight Simulator as well, which we will stream at various points alongside. Right, Captain Dutchy's doing well, excellent. Dimitri, checking in from Vancouver. Thanks for coming along, Dimitri. Good to see you here, and I hope the weather is better in Vancouver if it's this bad here and in Faro. I'm not sure. I think, are you a bit further south than Faroe Islands? I think you probably are. Right, let's do the brake check. So there we go, and we check down here for no pressure. No pressure indeed. Let's think through what else we need to do. Let's get our flight control check done. Luckily, we can do that from inside today. So let's bring up that window so we can keep an eye outside. Full left, and it's this is a classic part of the Airbus. Full right, neutral, full down, full up, neutral. A great feature. Once again, it just shows how well designed this airplane is. This screen appears automatically when you move the flight controls too much, so on the ground. So let's just do the rudder, full right, full left, neutral. Yeah, the fact that just appears, you don't have to select it. It sounds obvious, but there's loads of aircraft out there that would not have that feature, and there's plenty of airliners that do not have features like that. You'd have to select it, and it sounds like a small thing, but when you have loads of these small, really well thought out things happening at the same time, it just leads to a really pleasant office to work in, because you can spend a long time on these airplanes. You can spend a good 12 hours at least sitting here, and I've spent more than that easily. Depending on what happens, and also, you know, it can be quite a stressful place to be if you've got a lot of things going on, a lot of you know, whether it's weather, passenger problems, other things, all sorts can happen in any day you go flying. You never know when you go to work whether this will be an easy day or a hard day. On paper it might look like a really short day, really simple, and then it turns into one of your longest of that year. And likewise, you can have really difficult looking days that look like they'll be really long and challenging, and then they're just lovely, and you have a really relatively easy day. Right, excellent. I'm glad it still looks fine. So that's good stuff. Thanks, guys. TT Spectre, what are the new PC specs? So you can put in exclamation mark specs, and you will see it. But I'll tell you, it's an i7-10700K. I went with an i7 over the Ryzen. I know that's not acceptable in 2020. It's just where I ended up, what was available, and also it runs a little bit faster than I couldn't get the Ryzen 9. It was a bit pricey, so this one runs. It's got quite a lot of cores. I think because of thankfully because of such great competition from AMD, Intel have this time given us more cores and speed for the money. So we have to thank AMD for that, no doubt. Otherwise, this would be called the i9 and it would have cost more money. But I think it's basically last year's i9. So it seems pretty good for streaming. Flight Simulator seem to like it. But also, like I said, I wanted to be able to stream off the CPU. So that's why I've got that. 32 gigabytes of RAM, because I reached 16 gigabytes of RAM quite easily with all my stream software running, because I run it on the same computer as I play the Flight Simulator on. So that's why I've got that, and I've got a RTX 2060 Super graphics card, because that I only run it at 1080p, and that I was hoping would be about right, and also save a bit of money somewhere in the system. Right, we'll go all the way to Alpha 2. It's interesting, if you had the stop bar lit up like this, you would not cross it, and with a misty day like this, it's not really low visibility procedures. But if it was, you'd have to stop at these. And there's an easy way to remember, says the parking brake. When you see these two, think Cat 2. So this is a Cat 2-3 holding point. And the easy way is these double lines like that. I don't know if it says it outside for us. Alpha 2. Yeah, so typically Alpha 1 will be the normal and Alpha 2 will be the Cat 2 holding point. Ian Dimitri says Vancouver, yeah, roughly the same latitude as Edinburgh, so you'll be further south, so hopefully you got nicer weather. Right. Just checking I've not missed anything in here. Okay, good stuff. So, I don't think there's much traffic out. I'm just going to have a quick check on my... I haven't heard anybody. I'm just going to have a quick check on my app. I use... It's called VatMap. It's quite free. A free app, which is actually really good, and you can sort of refresh it and see where people are. I know people use VatSpy. But it looks like no one's around heading into Glasgow, so let's get ourselves lined up. So I'll just run my... no, there is no before takeoff checklist in this setup we've got here, so let's do the rest of our flow. So we've done the flight controls. Let's get this radar on, really important. We've seen flashing weather out there, so I want all of these systems on. I'm going to definitely set that to weather and turbulence. I do wish this armrest went out the way. It does in the flight factor 7.5, and it would be great if it did in this. Calibration, so the gain is set to cal, which is normal, I think, for this radar. Tilt, let's have it tilted up about 8 degrees, somewhere there. And it shows us nothing. It should also show us the tilt on the screen, but it's quite a basic modelling of this system in the ToLiss. Okay. Right, this needs to go to TAR8, obviously. So we can actually see the traffic around us. That needs to be max. Let's tell the camera crew what's going on, and let's get our takeoff config. Right. So, no one's around. Let's just tell everyone what we're doing and get ourselves underway. Glasgow traffic, Manta 229 is lining up and taking off runway 23 on a northerly departure. Climbing to 6,000. Okay, brakes released. Oh no, there's that glitch again. That would make you jump. And get the strobe lights on. Let's get all those lights on as bright as we can. And we're going to have packs on again today for takeoff. I think we're pretty much ready to go. Yeah, the nose wheel is interesting. I think I've talked about it before, but if it's wet like today, you'd need to be slower. And if you have the nose wheel perfectly on this yellow line, you'll really feel it slip and slide. You've got to be very careful, especially when you're turning on sharper turns. You can't go the same speed. Now, this is a great part. I'm just going to slow down so we can enjoy the view. A great part of Orbex, details like that crane, which is actually there at Glasgow. It's really nice. And I must say, this is where the weather engine in X-Plane is really good. This misty, hazy, low cloud base, this is really quite good. So I look forward to seeing what the new light simulator has, but certainly I've always thought the X-Plane grey, cloudy days are really quite representative. Okay, we'll take our time here because we're the only ones. Just get our SID chart ready. Okay, so right. Oh no, we do it before takeoff, including the checks. I was going to say, I'm sure there was. So we've done the flight controls, they're checked. Flight instruments are checked. Briefing is confirmed. Flap setting, we've got config 1+F and config 1 in there, so that is correct. FMA and takeoff data, very important. We've got 142, 146, climb there, blue. 152, 6,000 feet where we're going to stop, which we know is safe. Transponder is set to TR8, eco memo takeoff, no blue. We've secured the cabin. The engine mode select will be normal. Even though it's raining, it's not particularly heavy, so that's fine. TCAS TR8 packs on. We are now ready for our takeoff. Okay, let's get ourselves underway. So, off we go to the Faroe Islands. I can see no weather out here. Certainly something you'd take a second to look at on a day like this if you saw flashing, but there seems to be nothing painting, is what everyone calls it. Nothing painting on the radar. So there we go, let's take off. Start the timer, half seismic forwards, 50% M1. Release the brakes, there's that glitch again, and 2 clicks. Man flex 41, SRS runway, order thrust is blue. Thrust is now set. 80 to 100 knots, releasing that pressure on the side stick. 100 knots is a call out, so the other pilot would say it and you would check it. And here we go, V1 rotates. Positive climb, gear up. There's nav mode. And away we go. Into the clouds straight away. Really cloudy, miserable day here. Quite smooth air though, just a light 6 knots. Hopefully we'll come out on top fairly soon into the sunshine. It's a shame because I've got all this Orbex scenery in Scotland and we're not getting to enjoy it again. Get ourselves through about 1530 feet, which will be 1500 feet above the ground. And there we go, levers to climb. Just climb auto thrust, so that's now engaged. You can hear the rattling. I don't think it rattles that much by this point. It does on the runway, but by the time you're in the air, it's less rattling than that. There we go, that's better. And now we're accelerating. Looking very good. I've got my water bottle in the way of that PFD when I do that. So there we go. And this is what I like. This sort of view, this sort of grey, just bland sky. And this is where it gets confusing. And flying on instruments is really, you have to really focus in on your instruments because you can get cloud layers that have a line that will be at an angle, something like that, and then you'll think that you're banking when you're not, and all sorts. It's very easy to become disorientated. That's why you do spend so much time getting your instrument rating as a commercial pilot. There's our S speed, so flaps to 0. To 50 knots is fine, clean, obviously, and that's what we're accelerating to. And we're going to start the turn here at Eton. So there we go, right turn. Round we go. Right, autopilot 1, so I can just set the new level. We're going to go up to flight level 360 today. 360, set standard. Standard is set. It's got a restriction. It says we have to be at 6,000 feet at Lomond. So that's an interesting point. What would you do for that? Well, you'd probably leave it set in the window. But if air traffic say climb now, you can do this, dash climb open climb out blue 360, which is absolutely what we're going to do. Now the flaps are at 0 and the landing gear's up. Disarm the spoilers, get rid of those lights there, leave the rest on, and accelerate away. Off we go. And just jumping into the chat very briefly, there we go, bursting out into the sunshine, one of the best parts of any flight, no doubt about it. And this is typical, it's usually sort of hazy, it's sometimes you get a perfectly crisp line with the clouds, and sometimes you get this, you sort of blend in and out. Quite a common place to have icing, so I would definitely check that. So temperatures just reached 10 degrees, so now I'd have to put the anti-ice on if we went through any more cloud, but it looks like we'd just be just above it, which is good news. Yeah, the very top of the clouds is typically the bumpiest. In these sort of stratus layered clouds, and that's where you'll see some icing, things like that. Okay, great, off we go. Jumping into the chat, Captain Dutchy asks, would 32 gigabytes of RAM be a good idea, considering it as loading times when loading onto auto are very long? I don't know. I've only done it because of streaming. I don't think I'd have done it just for flying X-plane, but I don't know. I'm sure people have better advice than I do for that. I just know that I was reaching 15 gigabytes because of the streaming software as well. There's 10,000 feet. Let's get rid of those seatbelt signs. Out of the clouds, it's nice and calm. Get those lights off. And this is a nice part of the flight as things sort of calm down. You've dealt with the weather, hopefully, and we can just focus on getting above that terrain and getting ourselves on the way to the Faroe Islands. After takeoff checklist is landing gear up, flaps retracted, packs on, barra ref is set to standards. We can also now clear out the radio nav, so we don't need that anymore, because we've reached a safe altitude as it was. Secondary can just be a copy, and we're looking to go to 3.6, which is totally fine. And I'm going to select airports so I can see where we might go if we need to. Just wind up that range, something useful. 80 miles for now seems okay. And I'm going to lower that radar tilt. There's no point having it pointing up in the sky too much. Let's have plus about 3. If I select bird, you can actually see what's our actual angle. We're climbing at about 5 degrees angle through the air. So if I set the weather radar to exactly 5, that'll be an exact line in front of us. Although obviously as we get higher, that will shadow off slightly. Martin Skov says, if ATC clears you higher than the SID, how do you clear the restrictions? So that's what you do. You just do an open climb or a vertical speed. The only one that's going to follow those restrictions is managed climb mode. Yeah. Avio is getting ready for his live. So to those of you who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do know, but Avio is a streamer as well, and he's also a founding member of the Simwings support group along with Dougal. So his channel's there if you want to go and join in on his stream. He'll do afterwards. He always flies a nice variety of aircraft to again a fantastic variety of destinations in a really nice friendly atmosphere if you want to go and join in on those streams at any point. But yeah, good stuff. TT Spectre thinks that that's probably a good CPU for X-Men. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I ended up choosing it. That map, yes. Corrosive Moon says weather radar works, but it needs a good weather engine. Yeah. So are you thinking I would need Active Sky X to actually see some more pronounced returns on the radar? I think that could be a general theme. Sorry if I'm way behind on the chat, guys. I'm always behind. Yes, Papa, what does pack 1 and 2 do? So the packs are actually how we pressurize the aircraft. So if you look on the panel, again, another great part of the Airbus is it's just drawn out for us. We've got the way the engines work is, some lag there. Didn't like that. There we go. So we've got up here our air conditioning panel. And basically we've got engine 1 bleed and engine 2 bleed. So we take air out of the engines and that's called bleeding it. So we've got engine bleed. That air is then sent into the packs. So you've got pack 2, pack 1 there. And there's obviously one on each engine. And those packs then supply the air into the cabin. And then you can set the temperature up here. So let's cool it down slightly. So that's basically, very simply, the way it works. So the air that comes out of the engines comes out of a compressor stage. So it's very hot air. And you can see it on the display page. If you go to bleed, it comes out of the engine at, there you go, 43 psi, 200 degrees Celsius. Because that's not from fuel, that's just from squeezing it together. So the air goes into the front of the engine and then it gets squeezed together by all the different turbines at the compressor stages at the front of the engine. It gets hotter and hotter because as you compress air, it heats up. And it heats up to 200 degrees and high pressure. It's then sent into the packs, and the packs are very clever. They're basically air conditioning, and they will send the air through all sorts of turbines, and they will reduce that pressure. And as they reduce the pressure, the temperature falls, and you can see the air actually comes out much cooler, 8 degrees it comes out. That air is then sent along here into the cabins, and there's a hot air valve that sends some hot air in to top it up to make it the right temperature for what you want. So you get cold air out the packs, and then we add a bit of hot air later on just to set it to the right temperature. So you can actually fly on one pack, no problem. If I turn off a pack, you'll see that the other one, and you get the must caution, and the other pack will just take over. It can pressurize on one. You have also got the ability to use the cross bleed. So if you open the cross bleed, let's say the bleed has failed. So if I turn off that bleed, get another caution for that, most likely, eventually. Now we've got no air coming from this engine, but this one engine on the right, the number 2 engine, is still supplying air for this pack, and then the cross bleed lets us supply the air to the other pack. But that's going to take a lot of energy out of that engine, so this number 2 engine is going to lose some performance because of that. Right, let's turn back on that bleed. Obviously you wouldn't fiddle with the panel in real life like that just to amuse yourself. But yeah, it does occasionally happen. A pack might fail or a bleed might fail, but very, very manageable. I'm Dimitri, is on a 2-week vacation. I hope you're enjoying that. Excellent. Ben Pearson, did you see the pictures of Silverstone on FS 2020? It looks amazing. Funnily enough, I've been trying to avoid too much FS 2020 videos because I want to actually enjoy some of the things it offers, especially the scenery myself, and I'm not entirely convinced about some of the way. I think some of the videos are being done as I've seen some of the people making the videos specifically saying that they've had to rush the video to get it out. Which is not, it may not be so representative of what we actually get, and also it's still in beta obviously, so I've been avoiding it a little bit, but I did happen to see a thumbnail for Silverstone and it looked surprisingly good, really detailed. Yeah, this was quite funny. I wonder why. I assume they spent extra time on it, unless their AI somehow does something clever with it, or maybe they use some data they have to generate racetracks. I really don't know, but it looked great. Pranchard, thanks for joining us. Flying Beast. Daniel says, is it possible to have turbulence on X-Plane 11? Absolutely, and it's quite severe turbulence whenever it does come along, so you definitely notice it. But yeah, it does happen. Try loading in the weather, set the weather to realistic weather, and you might see it. I've definitely have had it at times. Oh, there you go, but you may need to have a head shake add-on. Mr. Espresso says, how much time do you spend on average for pre-flight cockpit prep in real life, say from entering the cockpit to pushback? On average, half an hour. Yeah, typical to arrive at an airplane slightly more than half an hour before the flight, but if you arrive half an hour before, that gives you a good amount of time to get the flight set up quite calmly, and it will take that time for the passengers to board and so on anyway. So yeah, it's typically half an hour, which is why I always start my streams in a half an hour go. It's a bit quicker for me on my own because I don't have to talk to another pilot, but you have to have a good time for briefing. You've got to get both of you on the same page, but that's a bit easier in X-Plane when I don't have to do it. But obviously it's better to have two pilots in any situation, because what happens, as you see with me, is that then I get overloaded because with one of us doing it, as you guys all do it, you know it's difficult to do all these things on your own. But there we go. Yes, Papa says the load times aren't just RAM, it can depend on things like SSD or HDD and how fast and so on. Yeah, absolutely. The Flight Channel, thanks for joining us. Glenn Chambers joins in with the Flight Channel. I think that's a new joiner. The Flight Channel, my nationality, well, probably from my accent it gives it away, but I am British. Yeah. Wojtek, CYVR, thanks for joining us again. You were here just a couple of days ago. Good to see you here again today. Hope you're having a good day. Skyhawk Sim Pilots, great name. I like it. Yes, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. And I haven't got it. No, I was not able to get into the beta or anything like that. So I will have it in the future along with you guys, and we'll have some fun with it. But no, I don't have it for now. Apparently there's some good airports in the new flight simulator. Yeah, it looks good. Looks good. Dougal's overclocked his computer 5 gigahertz. So that's a good point, Dougal. My processor says on the box or wherever I bought it, said it would boost or turbo or something to 5.1 gigahertz on its own out of the box. But all it ever goes to is 4.66. So I don't know if I've missed something. But yeah, I may have to fiddle with some settings in the BIOS. I don't know. I am Dimitri, another fan of the Ini Builds A300 along with Carter, and apparently Enes Aydin. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about it? On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm, in terms of seeing the release, I haven't seen much footage about it. So if you said to me that a high quality A300 add-on is coming out in X-Plane, I would go 8 out of 10. Having said that, I may not be able to get it straight away because obviously I've spent quite a bit of money upgrading the computer for now, and sadly Flight Simulator as well. So whether or not I'll get it soon after launch, I don't know. I don't know how much they're going to charge for it either. Is it going to be one of those, you know, I'm not complaining, but one of those expensive ones, you know, we're talking 60, 70 pounds, 80, 90 dollars, or is it going to be sitting in the more sort of 40 pound area? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Skyhawk Sim Pilot, what are your PC settings? They're actually slightly lower than last time. There's a bit of turbulence, so you can see it now. We get that variation. If I go to the wing view, that might give you a better clue. You can see the wing flexing, which I love. This is a great graphic, really, really representative, I think, of the real airplane. Yeah, my sim settings are, I run it at 1080p. The frame rate at the moment is actually doing a bit worse than I'd expect, about 30 in the flight deck while streaming. This is also over ortho scenery. And we can actually see, look at that, there we go, some of that really nice Orbex, not ortho, Orbex scenery. But with all these clouds, that tends to lower the frame rate more than anything. My graphics card groaning under the pressure. I have it not, the effects I've set to 1 lower than maximum. I can show you here actually, if I do it quickly. There we go, we've gone high, maximum, 4 times, 16 times, High. I did have these on Max, and I think I can probably return them. It hasn't made much difference to the graphics. I think the big change here is getting the CPU to do the streaming. Carter says I need to turn it on in the BIOS. Yeah, I think I do. Okay, I'll have to fiddle with those. I'm always scared of fiddling with things on the computer. Carter was told it was less than the ToLiss. Okay, interesting. That could be good then, because the ToLiss is very reasonably priced for what it is, I think. Dangerous Brian said, did you order the Steam version? I did, yes, that's where I went for it. I didn't end up going on the Microsoft Store. I didn't understand the Microsoft Store. It was so confusing trying to work out which account I was going to need to use and so on. And Steam is what I use X-Plane on, so that seemed much easier to me. Dimitri says it will be pricey. Expecting more than $65. Yeah. I you know, and I'm not going to complain about that, but that's just could make it a little bit difficult for me to get at first. TT Spectre says the 10700K might turbo up to 5 GHz for a few milliseconds if no other cores are loaded. That's interesting because mostly the cores load up at the same time. I've got, what have I got? I've got, currently it's running at about, I don't know, 20% overall cores, maybe a bit higher, 50 on some. None of them are sitting at 0. The GPU load is at, see, this is weird. The GPU is sitting at 50%. The CPU is sitting at 30%. So you'd think the frame rate would shoot up, but it doesn't always seem to work like that. But there we go. And what speed is my CPU? The CPU is running at, yeah, 4.66. Just seems to sit there, which is fine. Yeah, no, I'm quite happy. I'm mostly pleased with the temperature. So the CPU temperature is about, what does it say? About 50 degrees at the moment. And that's while streaming and playing X-Plane. So I've got a water cooler on it. So I think I could probably overclock it, but I suppose it probably doesn't need it if it's sitting cool enough. Carter says I turn reflections to low. It barely does much, and from my understanding I have it on low, but I'm on 11.41. It really doesn't do much. Yeah, I remember it does make a huge difference to FPS. I did have it on maximum. It does look nice only over the water, but on a day like today when you're in the clouds, it's probably a much better idea to have that set to just 0 and forget about it. Right, last 1,000 feet to go. We're going to get ourselves up into our level off. I'm definitely going to get the terrain radar on. It's not a radar, terrain display on, and let's set that tilt down a little bit, and let's put the other side to weather radar just in case. So we're going to level off. This is very good performance, but we are light today, so 360 really isn't a struggle. Strong tailwind. Look at that, 65 knots. Mac and out star, and there we go, leveling off. So where's our top of descent from here? Not far, 120 miles. So as I said, I'm going to have to actually fiddle with the weather a bit. I'll let it reload, get a bit closer, and then maybe improve it for us, and we can actually get in. Yeah, a lot of people say reflection detail. Yeah, maybe I will. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe the RTX graphics card had something in it that made reflections a bit easier, but I think that's not true. It's not using RTX, certainly. Almost nothing does that I can find. Oh dear, yeah, everyone agrees on lowering the lowering reflections. Next time I'll do that. I suspect for you guys it may not make much difference. My logic was a 40 frame rate here is probably good for streaming, just because you guys get to, you know, you guys get to see something, whereas the higher frame rates may not be noticeable. There we go. I hope you're all enjoying the bright Manta livery, as always. There we go. Those clouds really put a dent in the frames. And there's some of that fantastic Scotland scenery. Yeah, love it. Wow, I just saw what my screen looks like to you guys with the pink overlay at the top plus the livery. Yeah, very bright. Yes, Pepper thinks that, yeah, if running fine now, not much point in overclocking. Yeah, I agree. I think I won't bother. I may just make sure the boost is enabled. Why are those engines spooling down? They're really spooling down. Not entirely sure why. Huh. Right, let's set this TCAS. Oh, I know what I should have done. I'm supposed to set it to norm, otherwise we won't see the other traffic. And set that to below in there. And let's go through our systems pages. So just talking about things, comparing what we've seen of the new Airbus, and like I say, we haven't seen much because the videos I've seen using the Airbus haven't quite gone into the detail that we users, the viewers of this channel probably are used to lots of Airbus style things. But I did notice the engine page down here, it seemed to be stuck on the engine, and it wasn't quite engine, it looked like a sort of status page. It had this line in it as well, and then the engine displays here, which I haven't seen before. So yeah, that I don't know if the lower ECAM page will work. I have seen the fuel page seems to show something though. But I did mention on Discord, the engine displays on the new Airbus, the Flight Simulator 2020 Airbus, seems really small font, really tiny. I find it really hard to see what it says whenever I look at the videos of it. So I hope that gets a bit bigger, because it's quite clear in the real aircraft, and that seems like quite an easy fix. That's just a case of just changing a font, isn't it? I'm sure it's not that simple. Nothing ever is with computers, but there we go. NS Aydin says, do you use any weather software? No, nothing. This is all default. I like the default X-Plane graphics of the clouds. Obviously the new Flight Simulator looks amazing, but I really like this. And I just use a default X-Plane just because I'm worried about complications with a few other things that may talk to each other. But I know a lot of people use some add-ons to get more accurate weather. Good evening, Stuart Wilson. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you here again, Stuart. And Dimitri says, why is your EPR so erratic? And here we go. This is EPR is erratic. It does this sort of up and down. Now the engines, I think I mentioned it last time briefly. We're in out cruise. So in out cruise, the airplane will try and hold the thrust at the same thrust. So it'll keep the fuel flow the same, keep the N1 the same roughly, or the EPR as it is. And it will then go up and down. So as the speed reduces, it will lower the nose and let the airplane sink by maybe about 100 feet. I think it's 150 feet maximum, but I need to look that up actually. And it will try and hold the power. So it will trade a bit of height to keep the speed, and keep the power the same. And it will do the same. If you see the speed increasing, instead of lowering the thrust, it will climb a little bit. And that way, as the environment around you changes bit by bit, it will gently go up and down a little bit. So you might be sitting in the cruise in the back of an Airbus, and suddenly you feel the airplane spring to life. It suddenly does a little bit of a climb and the engine's pulled up. What happens there is it's lowered the thrust, it's kept the thrust the same, it's lowered the altitude by 100 or so feet, and it's decided it still can't maintain it. Okay, so now it adds more thrust and climbs you back to level. So outcruise is a way of keeping it softer, and that's what I'd expect to be working here, but it's not working. It doesn't seem modelled in the ToLiss, not that I'm aware of. So we end up with this sort of much more accurate, well, I say accurate, it's hunting, it's searching for that speed all the time, which is not very fuel efficient. So the engines spool down, they spool up, they spool down, and it'd be quite exhausting to listen to all day. So I think it's just the turbulence in the simulator today. Let's go and look at our turbulence indicator of that wingtip. Yeah, there you go, bouncing up and down. Ben Pearson currently flying to Nice. I hope you enjoy it. I haven't been to Nice in X-Plane, and I think that should be a really good place to go. Ennis, I didn't enjoy Madeira. Excellent. Yeah, we did go there on my channel. It wasn't the smoothest landing, so I hope you have better joy when we go. And Chambers thinks the Airbus in the new Flight Simulator is just a placeholder of the add-on that will be coming. Yeah, sure. It's gonna. We're going to have to wait for an add-on, aren't we, to be really Airbus style. I think we mentioned last time it would be nice if ToLiss brought theirs across, but I have no idea how hard that would be. Whether it's easier for AirFS Labs to do it because theirs is already in a version of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Who knows? Who knows? I'm sure there's plenty of developers thinking about it. Right, it's time to face the music of the Faroe Islands. So let's get rid of our Glasgow charts. Gone, and I've already forgotten the code. Echo, I know it's started with Echo, Kilo, Victor Golf, reload. How's it doing? Oh well, it's improved slightly from how it was earlier. Westerly wind 240 at 8, 2,500 meters light drizzle. BR is missed. Overcast at 100 feet, so that is low. Temperature 12, dew point 12, so it's warmed up, but the dew point stayed the same. Low QNH 996, so they're sitting in a depression of some sort, which explains the bad weather. Evening, Ian Morris. Thanks for joining us. No problem at all. We're primarily hoping for a smoother journey than last time, especially with the stream. So we seem to be doing all right. But yeah, thanks for coming along. So if we have a look, let's bring up the airport chart. As you can see here, it's a 1800 meter runway. Do they have the width written on here? Width 30 meters, so it's a narrow runway as well. Interesting, yeah, narrow runway. That changes the visual perspective. It makes it look like the runway's further away, so you tend to flare a bit late with it visually. If you see a narrow runway, it may be you'll think you're higher than you are as you come into landing, because it's amazing how the visual cues like the runway make a difference to when you flare and so on. So yeah, so that is quite interesting. That would make it even more challenging. But the big problem is the runway slope. It's it's gonna be really badly modelled, I think, in X-Plane, or really severe, really strong slope. Does it say on this chart? Not sure. I know they've added things like these flashing lights in Faroe to make it more suitable for the aircraft to come more often, because they wanted to make sure they had enough people. Now, wind weather turbulence charts. Oh look, there's a warning. So this is a bit like Gibraltar, who have their own charts to explain which directions you need to be worried about the wind. Probably airlines will have their own limits as well. So yeah, you have to familiarise it. Mandatory familiarisation program regarding wind turbulence and conditions. So this could be a Cat C airport. It could be one that requires special extra training. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I have not flown here. Turbulence indicators and weather conditions. Look at this. If it's at 5,000 feet and above 50 knots, strong indicator of severe turbulence expected. So runway 12 is in a valley, which is noticeable. Let's have a look. So there's, if we ended up flying an ILS into 12, you have to do an offset localizer over this hill, and then in, and then turn right onto final. And it's quite a strong offset, which means it's a localizer only, non-precision approach. So we're going to have to fly those altitudes. So which way was the wind for us? Totally forgotten. I think it was a more westerly wind, which would be typical. Yeah, 240. So we would not be approaching onto that runway. We're going to use runway 30. So it's still 70 degrees off from the left. But there we go. That's fine. So we're not going to do that. What we're going to do. And by the way, guys, I did have a look at landing on 12, and the model is so bad, it's not possible. We're reaching the bird. Oh dear, I was not ready for this. I didn't think there'd be anyone up here. We're going to have to talk to air traffic control. Excellent. 119.7. But yeah, so landing on 30 in X-Plane seems a much more safer bet, and even then it's going to be really quite tricky.
320 with Victor.
Right, let's see if we can get just. I haven't actually checked with my. Let's turn up COM1 volume. Save and close.
Airline 401 cross 188. Airline 407 cross 188. Was on my 284. Airline 404, report you requested flight level and Mach number for oceanic clear. 350.77, please. Faroe Islands.
Here we go. So Faroe Islands there. We've got the Faroe Islands. We've got people who actually know what they're doing out here. This could get embarrassing. So what we're going to have to do is we need to know, if I go back to page 1, what we want to do. And it does tell us. We have it written in our flight plan, luckily. So we want to join. It wasn't on there. It's on page 1.
Traffic is company. Do you have the dash 8 on?
Not sure. Basically, we need to tell them when we enter the FIR our MAC number and our flight level, and we get a clearance to do that before we reach the FIR. So normally you have to do it about 10 minutes before. I'm just having trouble listening to them, but let's give it a go. And bird FIR, Manta 229, flight level 360 to Adasi.
Norland 536, report one way vacated. Presentable report when vacated, Norland 536. Yeah, the station calling, go ahead.
Manta 229, flight level 360 to Adasi.
Manta 229, Roger, stand by.
So we're going to get, I want decimal 74 as a fixed Mach number and flight level 360.
Manta 229, are you RF/INP capable flying now?
AFM, Manta 229.
Manta 229, Roger. Report your requested flight level and Mach number for Oceanic here.
For Oceanic, requesting flight level 360, Mach decimal 74, Manta 229.
Manta 229, Roger. You are cleared to via Dawson, then Sobor. Expect the oh god, I forgot what the city's called. Actually, we can get to the arrival in a second. Squawk 2344, flight level 360, Mach decimal 74.
Thank you. Manta 229 is cleared to Faroe via Dawson and Super. Flight level 360, decimal 74 and squawk 2344. There's the squawk. So that's going to start from Dawson, I believe.
And 229 read back correct, and you can expect get the waterfall. You can expect the Arnav uniform for runway 30.
Thank you, Arnav uniform for 30. Excellent, Manta 229. Right. Okay. Oh man, that's changed absolutely everything. So, I don't think we're going to actually need to do that because we're going to be descending before we get into the airspace. But they've given us the waterfall arrival. So, sorry guys if I miss anything in the chat for now. I'm just going to need to hit this out because I should have spent more time looking at it earlier for sure. Let's have a look. Has anyone done this before? Let me know if you have. So it's going to be the RLS Zulu 30 or is it the RNP Whiskey 30? It said RNP, which is fine.
I'm going to get you to confirm that last waypoint for me as well. 350.77215 Faroe Islands.
So this is obviously an RNP AR authorization required, which we've already counted Manta Airways as having permission to do. It takes extra training in real life.
Copied the Mike Yankee. Faroe Island 404. 404, big back correct.
For Manta 229, can you confirm which RNP approach we expect for 30, Whiskey, Victor or Uniform?
Manta 229, the winds are favouring Uniform, but it's at your discretion.
Thank you, Manta 229. Uniform, here we go.
It's also the most exciting one.
Thanks, excellent. Right, arrival, and let's see if we have it in the box. RNP 30 Uniform, there we go. Fantastic. Well, we can't turn that down. And let's go to plan, zoom in. No stars. Is there a via? Suda. We're going to go by Suda, aren't we? There it is. Let's zoom out. Insert. Okay, so from Suda, which is pretty much our next point, along these points, and then zoom in. Let's have a look. Goodness me, I should have definitely spent more time preparing this flight today. 160 knots mandatory. Let's put a constraint on. There it is, 160 knots, 4,000 feet. So the box has that loaded in, so I don't want to miss my top of descent here because it seems pretty reasonable. VG 993. This is an RNP AR approach because we've got this turn, these turns to be done whilst following the RNP points. 800 feet or above at VG 992, which has that little 2 marker which says 1.3, so there's 1.3 mile leg between the two, which is about 1 mile on there, fine. And then we go 991 above 1240, and these will be on here. 991, 1240, 3.6 degree approach, my goodness me, yeah, that is going to be steep. So flat full, definitely. Medium water brake, obviously, for this runway. Then 990 at 560 feet, which is down here. Excellent. And then that turns us on to final. So it should line us up straight away with the runway. If we go around, climb to 4,000 feet, so we're going to put 4,000 for that. Go to Magni Beholding via 091, 093, 095, Magni, so straight ahead, 4,000 feet. Rad nav, well, it's a completely RMP approach, so we need the GPS to be working for this. Got our 4,000 feet MSA around the airport, so I won't put a circle in because I know 4,000 feet is going to be the controlling MSA the whole time. We'll go below it when we're on the profile for this. What I don't know is when I'll be able to arm approach, because it seems to vary in the ToLiss depending. I've seen it in Gibraltar happen a bit later. Progress, let's put in that threshold so we have something. Echo. Echo. Kilo. Victor Golf. 30. That's progress, performance. Time to put that in. Okay. Right, auto 240 at 8, so of course it favours that. You check your performance, which we are saying we've done, 12 degrees. And a QNH of low, 996, so very important that we don't miss the transition level. And minima for that RMP approach. So, RMP 0.2, which we're going to say we can do, it's not below -10. The reason there's a minimum temperature is because if it gets too cold, and the air is too compressed because it's denser when it's colder, you'd end up actually lower than you realise, so that's why there's a limit, and you'd have to recalculate it or not fly it, because this is a VNAV as well approach. We're in a category C aeroplane, this talked about 4, and here we go. So Cat C, we can climb, I reckon, at 4%, so let's go with a decision altitude of 735, gives us the best chance of getting in, because we've got good performance for the go-arounds. And this has to be single engine based, by the way. This is not your dual engine go-around. 3.6 degree approach is significantly steeper. So I want to be geared down flat foot, obviously, by VG992. But really, I'm going to want to be on this leg here. I want to be flat to 160 and configuring. As soon as I leave 4,000 feet, I'm going to configure. So we're nice and slow through the hills here. I have seen the Airbus ToLiss Airbus trigger some GWS quite often, so we may see a bit of that today, so I may have to turn off that system. Not realistic at all.
Identify silo 360. When ready, descend 4,000 feet. Vaga QNH 997.
We're ready to send 4,000 feet on QNH 997, Manta 229. Right, there we go. Down we go. Excellent. This is not what I expected. So that's good. We're already on. It's going to be on QNH 997. I put it 996, so let's update that to 997 in the box. There we go. Thrust idle open descent. We're obviously a bit high. How high are we? About 2,000 feet. So let's pull the speed. Leave it in the Mach number for now, and let's go down at 77, and it will go down very quickly. Right, quick chance to catch up on the chat, guys. So sorry about that, but yeah, loads of things going on. I need to see if I've updated. Oh, maybe my update will make it. Yeah, let's try turning up the volume on there. Thanks for that. Yeah, good. Maybe I need to update to a newer one. Vladimir, I have no settings for the wings to wiggle. It's just when there's turbulence. Yeah, it seems to come included in the Airbus. There you go, still bouncing. Fantastic. So yeah, wing flex is default. Dougal's lost track of this approach. Don't worry, me too. I'm struggling here. This would be something you'd have to have a good eye on before you went here, and I suspect extra training, because it clearly needs an extra briefing package at least. When am I going to go to managed descent? Once I know that the maximum speed is out of the way, because if I go to managed like that and that, it's okay now. So it's probably not going to be enough to get the height up in time. Maybe 600 feet high, maybe it'll be alright. But if I do it in open descent, I can actually go a bit faster than that, which is what I'm doing here, and that way we'll reach that profile a little bit quicker. So that's why I'm doing that. I'll probably convert to manage a bit later on. This is amazing, because there's so many people flying around here who seem to know exactly what they're doing. Here we come. So for those of you who are joining in, watching, just to explain clearly in case I rush through it, we're going to come in from the south here at Suda. We're then going to fly an RNAV approach effectively. We're going to configure. Thank you, Manta 229. We're then going to configure as we fly around here. I want to be fully configured before I turn left here because of this terrain on the other side. We're going to descend on this steeper approach It's 1,800 feet at the 992, which is there. So we want to be 4,000 feet at the 996. It's mandatory, as it says there. Some of the difficulties of this approach: RF required, authorization required. Fine, we've got those. 250 knots below 100, normal. Barrow VNAV not authorized below -10. So if it was cold, we couldn't do this, but we can because it's fine. It's recommended when the surface wind is from 300 to 050. It's not actually from there, is it? It's slightly further left than that, but that's fine. They said it's the most fun. Our minima is 800 feet above the ground, or 740 feet on that steep approach. So for the steep approach, I want to be fully configured because otherwise the airplane would accelerate as we descend. More of my concern is the minima. They say visibility 2,500 meters, but overcast 100. I mean, overcast 100, we're not getting in on that approach. That is the problem. I'm not necessarily sure I'd even begin the approach because overcast 100 means we need to be visual at 700 feet, so we're just not going to see it. I could just check the cloud base for Manta 229. What is the current cloud base for the airport, please? I've forgotten its name. Vagar.
Manta 229. The weather is reported to be clouds overcast at 200 feet.
Roger, Manta 229. Oh, I've got distracted there. That's not good. Right, so we're overspeeding. Autopilot off. Let's gently raise the nose. Thrust levers at idle. Let's get the thrust levers to idle. Wind that speed back. Being gentle with it. Okay. Manage speeds. Re-engage the autopilot. Re-engage the auto thrust. Now, that's interesting. The Mach number.
229. If well, it's at your discretion pretty much. But if you want to, you can also take the ILS for 103, so it has a little bit lower minimum.
Thank you. We'll have a think, Manta 229. Yeah. So the Mach number you saw there increases as you get lower. So to fly at the same Mach number, it goes up. And what the aircraft does is it transfers to a speed as you get lower to stop that happening. But the ToLiss seems to select the speed very early, and then I converted it to the Mach, but then it didn't reconvert it back to the speed as you'd expect. Somewhere around the transition, it would convert back. So that's what led to the overspeed. Yeah, very bad. And Dimitri, no, it's not alpha floor, it's slightly different. So when you overspeed, the autopilot will disconnect on its own as you go through the red bar. Yeah, it's an interesting feature. So this airplane would definitely need a safety report and an engineering inspection now. But that's what happens if you... Well, firstly, if you don't spend enough time flying the airplane and too much time looking at charts. But also, like I say, the Mach number should convert to a speed to stop that happening. Because now we're flying on speeds, you see, not Mach, because the Mach numbers are just too high and I can't even swap it over. But there we go. Right, let's get back. Yeah, so they said that the ILS is available. Zulu 30, what's the minimum for that? Oh, it's the same. It's 100 feet lower. It's not going to make a difference. Interestingly, the localizer only is a ceiling required. So there we go. Right. What we're going to do then is cheat. We're going to have to raise the cloud base because we won't get in otherwise. Let's just get the cloud base up. Done. Okay, hopefully that works for us. We'll just have to hope it doesn't change too much in the meantime. You can actually see it on the PFD, so above decimal 5 it will show us. So although we're keeping 260 knots, this number is going to reduce as we descend slower and slower. So to fly at decimal 6 or whatever you have set up here, the airplane would have to keep accelerating in the indicated airspeed. Anyway, we can definitely go to manage descent now. I'm sure we're below profile. Yeah, well below profile because we were just accelerating so fast there. So yeah, that's very bad. Slap on the wrist for that, absolutely. We're going to land with medium auto brake, flat fall, maximum reverse because it is a short runway to get ourselves to vacate.
Airline 404 identified 400 feet, climb flight level 3 350 proceed direct to VMAX, Mike Yankee.
Oh, I already had that chart, didn't I? Yeah, we don't need that one twice. We're going to vacate just to the right there. It's a severe upslope, as we've talked about in X-Plane. So the landing, I can't promise anything for the landing rate. It could be any wacky number. But what we're going to do is hope to come off here straight away. Otherwise, I have to do a bit of a backtrack and a turn. Turning a 321 on a 30-meter runway would be an interesting attempt. So yeah, that's probably another reason not to bring a 321 here. But it looks like you vacate. And then there's some stands there, but we'll skip through and go to one of these self-maneuvering stands, which could also be a problem in a 321, we shall see. Okay, I think we've got a plan. I've set the cloud base to, let me just check it, just make sure we've got it. Broken cumulus, starting from 2,300 feet, yeah, so we should definitely get in this time. We're going to have to cheat here. So, here we go then. Pseudo 4,000 feet, we're regaining that profile, it's doing a gentle 1,000 feet per minute. Looking good. Cam A321, of course, yeah, go ahead with the question.
I got the Lucy 3C departure, squawk 7503, I know what Victor Bravo. I know 1 Victor Bravo, that's absolutely no problem. I'll send it on text in a second. It's
a very nice controller working here today, considering all the special procedures they've got up here. I can't be the only one who's arrived relatively unprepared. All of these lights are modelled, don't seem to be doing much.
Flight level 290 initially, expect flight level 350.
So we're not going over any particular terrain on here. Let's have a look. Let's do that so we do not do the same thing again. Watching out for that in the future. Right, so 4,000 feet there. Around the turn, is that the... No, that's the whiskey. We're not doing the whiskey. We're doing the uniform, which seems to be the waterfall approach. Is there a waterfall visual point on this or something? Maybe that's what people do. Carter says, is there not a way to do a low-vis approach? No. What have we got? There's a cloud break, which would just be a pure visual approach. That's no good at all. And Victor 30, what have they got? No, we got down to best case. Oh, there you go, 455 feet for this ILS. So if it's overcast, 200. No, I mean there is one thing, which is if you're doing an ILS down to Cat 1 minimum, so 200 feet above the runway, the cloud base doesn't matter so much because it's more about visibility by that point. Even if you're still in the cloud, if the visibility is, I don't know, 1,000 meters, then you still have a good chance of seeing the runway regardless of the RBR. So, I mean, we're getting into low vis stuff, which I haven't talked much about on my channel. But if we look here, so now ILS minima, it's still 425 feet above the runway, or 455.
When passing 7,000 feet, contact Vargai. AFIS frequency 124.850.
After passing 7,000 feet, 124.850, Manta 229, thank you.
Manta 229, 82 discretion, radar service terminated, descend of jet, discretion.
Roger, Manta 229, thanks for your help. Okay, so yeah, so 445, that's probably a bit high. If that was 200 feet height above the runway, then yeah, we could do that. But I think this will be more spectacular, more fun to fly this last minute uniform, and it was recommended by the controller. It looks like it flies through this valley here, or over the river. So we should come out the clouds somewhere here, and then get a nice view round as we fly it. Rouse 3 Raiders, can you explain the weather radar? There's our thrust idle, so we're now re-intercepting that path. We don't need the LS push buttons, but what I will do is just check we've got GPS primary accuracy high, which is still working well. Excellent. Very important. Required at the moment 0.3 nautical miles, so that's a range, an estimation. If we know we're within 0.3 of our position, we need to be at least 0.3 from where we think we are, and we're actually at 0.05, so the airplane's much more accurate than that. Weather radar, yeah, so it's a bit of an awkward one in the ToLiss. It's one of the older style radars. You've got calibration, so the higher you set the gain, if you set it to calibration, that should be right, and then if you increase it, it'll be more sensitive, and if you decrease it, less sensitive, so it's less likely to show you returns. Weather radar works by reflecting off of water, so if there's no water in the air, you won't see anything. Multi-scan, if you leave it to auto, it'll scan up and down. If I leave it to manual, oh, that may be what I was doing wrong. Let's put that to weather radar.
Denmark, just like myself. I normally patrol Copenhagen.
Once you do that,
he's just gone to get his flag. Give him a moment.
You get the tilt up here. GCS, ground clutter suppression, that will mean that you won't see the ground returns. When you tilt a radar at the ground, you may not see weather, but you will see the ground returns eventually, which shows you it's working. With this on, it should get rid of that sort of thing, so that you can see that you're flying with the correct
you thought I was joking.
Correct I don't know what the controller's doing there. Yeah, so if you have this turned on, it should hide that out of the way. Tilt, you just tilt the angle. So for a descent, you tilt it down slightly, but as you get lower, it will start to pick up more weather, more ground returns because you're lower. PWS is predictive wind shear, so wind shear is built into the aeroplane itself, but the predictive wind shear uses the radar to see ahead and see if there's rain moving in a particular way that makes it look like wind shear. If it senses that, it will warn you and give you the direction, so you may go around or not try the approach. System, so we've got 1 and 2. Most Airbuses will just have 1, but you can have 2 fitted, so we just got radar 1 here working. Mode, you've got weather, it'll just show you the weather. Weather and turbulence, it can show you turbulence on the display as well. If you've got really severe weather out there, it can also show magenta hashing, I think it is, to show you that there's turbulence in it. Or you can choose just turbulence, or you can have map. Map would just do a ground return, so it will sweep and try and draw out the ground. It's quite effective. It uses a different sort of pattern on the radar. You'd never use it because these days we have our terrain display, which is going to be far more accurate as a database. So yeah, weather and turbulence is where you're going to want that really. Right, so here we go. I'm going to leave it on weather as we enter these clouds. It's colder up here, 7 degrees, so let's get that engine anti-ice on. Still looking good. Yeah, so on an RNAV approach like this, you'd definitely be checking these numbers as you go through 10,000 feet, making sure everything is sequenced and loaded in, which it is. We don't need the LS buttons at all. Right, here we go. So 4,000 feet. He said we're going to change frequency to do what was it? At 7,000. So let's set that up now. 12485. Cam A321. In my approach into Geneva, everything was set up for the ILS 04 with all of that on the FMA, but there was no magenta glider or localizer indicators on the PFD. Alright, so let's just change frequency now. 12485, there we go. Oh, this side's saying enter destined. Hopefully that's an old message. Otherwise they're not talking to each other. So if I go Perth. There it is, yeah, it's come across. Yeah, I'm not sure why, Cam. It could just be, well, it could be all sorts of things. There's maybe it wasn't sequenced right. Sometimes the ToLiss doesn't tune the frequency until a bit too late. So if you're slightly further out than normal, it doesn't seem to register anything, which is not quite accurate. You can intercept a localizer sometimes. Some airports will try and make you intercept from 30 miles away. So that's not a very good place to do it. You have to monitor very carefully. But yeah. Yeah, and the only other thing I could think was if you didn't have this button pressed, you won't get it displayed.
Airline 402, report you requested Mach number and flight levels for your channel clearance.
Oh, well, I thought I'd change frequency. Sounds like the same person. Oh well. Captain Zilitows, thanks for joining us. Good to see you here. Yeah, the radar does work, but you have to have really severe weather for it to work, which sadly doesn't happen very often. Henrik K, can you actually try landing in direct law as a challenge? Yeah, so I have a video on direct law. I can't remember if I show a landing in it. I think I do. So here's our first decel point, or our decel point actually. This is where it's going to activate the approach phase on its own. So if we look in here, go to performance, as we pass this magenta D, there we go, approach phase is now active and the airplane will start slowing down, and that brings up these scales for our RMP approach. We know we're going to 4,000 feet, and then after that we're going to carry on the descent. Yeah, CAM A321, I'm not sure, it could be the ToLiss hadn't tuned it correctly in time, something like that. Carter says it's an RLS range limitation in X-plane. Yeah, it is definitely lower than real life. Captain Zilitows, if you're wondering about direct law, I've got some videos on my channel. I've got normal law, alternate law, and direct law, which they are hidden away now, actually. I should probably make some better playlists. But essentially, those will guide you through what they are. They're quite a core part of the Airbus, so they're quite good to know. If you feel like watching it, if you feel like being interested. Approach nav, there we go. Final blue, so we've armed the approach now, so hopefully it will continue its descent and we can leave our go around altitude of 4,000 in. I need to set that in here, 4,000. At some point here I'm going to have to transmit what I'm doing. So there's an initial fix at 996. Manta 229, shortly passing Victor Golf 996 for the RNP AR uniform at runway 30. Whether you call beacon inbound or something like that.
Manta 229, Vaga AFIS, good afternoon, second.
Oh, apologies, Manta 229, descending to 4,000 feet and continuing with the RNP AR uniform for runway 30, QNH 997 hectopascals.
Manta 229, roger, no idle traffic reported, winds are 170 degrees, 7 knots, runway 30 is free.
Thank you. Continuing approach for runway 30, Manta 229. Now I've had this happen before.
229, are you ready to copy a full weather report?
Ready to copy, Manta 229.
Manta 229, automatic weather report for Vaga. QNH is the only required feedback. Time 1720 Zulu. Winds 170 degrees 7 knots, variable between 130 and 200 knots. Visibility 2,700 feet. Light rain. Fog. Clouds broken 100 feet. Temperature 11, dew point 11, QNH 998.
Thank you. That weather is copied, Manta 229, QNH 998. Here we go. What's going on here? So this is what I had before. Let's go to flap 2. We've got the speed brake out, and it wouldn't let me capture the vertical profile until we were a bit lower. So this is not ideal. If I need to put the gear out, I will. But we are now entering approach. There we go, final lap. It has worked. The next limit is 1,800 feet. So there's 2,500 feet. Let's put the gear down to get it to slow down. Let's arm. Oh, that will help us slow down. Let's get that to go around altitude in. 4,000 feet. There we go. Arm those. Okay. Flaps to 3. Get those lights on. Anti-ice can go off. Oh, that should have gone on. Seatbelt sign should have gone at 10,000 feet. This could be tricky to slow down. I'm pretty sure we had to be slower here. And here we go. My goodness, entering the valley. What an approach this is. So we're going to turn around and then we're going to... There we go, flaps to full. This could be tricky to justify stable. We may need to go back and do this again. Cabin is ready. Yeah, that really is steep and fast, isn't it? No, I'm not happy with this. Let's do a go around and go and try that again. So we're definitely unstable. Look at that sink rate and so on. That was, yeah, we were not ready for that. Right, so I'm going to do go around flaps. So here we go. Go around flaps. Move the flaps in one stage. I need to push that to get nav to make sure it turns to the left. Mantogo SRS nav is turning left, positive climb, gear is going up, and hopefully the airplane will pitch up faster than that. The real airplane does pitch up quite fast on the go-around. It gets more pitch authority. Okay, so climbing away, there we go. Leave us back, speed out star. I'm not going to retract those flaps until we're definitely accelerating. That's going to be no good at all. Hello to Geordie, thanks for joining us, just in time for the excitement. Right, let me let air traffic control know. Still got 5.3 tons of fuel, so we're in a good place. You can see it's gone into outstar, and this is the problem. We've got outstar, flap 3 and climb thrust. It's not quite enough, so the airplane's decelerating slightly, so you need to watch this quite carefully. If it does decelerate anymore, I'm going to push vertical speed 0 to level off. But actually, we're reaching it at level, so that nose will come down shortly. Manta 229 going around. Right, accelerating flaps to 1. Pilot Peely, good evening, thanks for joining us.
Roger. Staying on your Mac.
Okay, now 230 knots, so flaps to 0. Level at 4,000 feet, which is safe. And we're heading off.
360,
Let's get the terrain display up here.
Identified.
Okay, right, that was not good. We did not follow that approach as we should have done. So let's get ourselves back out and round and get that more conservative. We need to get down. This 4,000 feet here is tricky because you've got to get down to 1,800 feet by 992, which is only 5 miles away. Yeah. So you have to actually really be slow here. And that 160 knots, that's what we didn't hit. We weren't 160 knots, so that makes it really difficult. Shows you how important the energy management is to get these things to work. Right, flaps to 0, they would be disarmed.
2290, roger. Correction, no other traffic reported. Report downwind for one-way 39. Correction, 30 and your intentions.
Manta 229, wind 10 to turn, downwind, and then try again the RNAV uniform for 30, please.
Roger.
Right, so where are we going from here? I think we can retune it, and the initial fix is 996, so we can go via 996. Let's see if we can retune that. What has it got in here? 996, there it is. So, we're above or at the MSA, so let's turn it left. Can we go straight south from here? Yeah, let's go south. Heading south. Still got medium auto brake. Now you probably run the after takeoff climb checklists, or after takeoff checklist. Landing gears up, flaps are retracted, packs are both on. We're not going up to standard, so I'm leaving it on the Q&H. I'm going to reactivate that approach phase, because we're going to go and do that again. We definitely have a think about what's changed, why are we doing this again? Have we thought about it? What's going to be different this time? Well, we could see, we were visual, so that's fine. The weather was fine, and the winds were fine. We were just too fast. So what we're going to do, let's keep the speed at 220 for now, is we're going to again go via 996, but this time we will actually make sure we meet this 160 knots. You have to be careful being too reliant on managed speed, as I saw there. It can be a little bit sporty. I suppose we could have gone by this other approach actually. It is even built in for the go-around. But there we go. We've already told him what we're doing, so we're going by 996. Let's come left a bit more. Let's try 160 degrees. Still safe with the terrain. We'd have a review of the fuel, so yeah, 5.1, no problem at all. In terms of extra fuel, where does that put us? Still got 800 extra, keeping our alternate, so that's good news. The scenery is default, Mr. Espresso. Yeah, it's pretty good for default scenery. I was quite impressed with the Faroe Islands, actually. Pilot Peely, if I didn't say hello. Hello. Joe Stone, absolutely, that was a go-around. Joe the Space Guy, yeah, the charts, you sign into Navigraph in your Avi tab, and it loads them in. It's great, yeah, really great feature. Alright, you probably have a word with the passengers as well, to reassure them what's going on, explain why you didn't land that time. And yeah, we'll go and have another go. There's no point carrying on approach like that if you're unstable, especially when you've got those hills in front of you. It's actually going to be a requirement for an R&P AR approach like that. The real aircraft, you would need it to have nav in the go-around. What that means is, as you saw, when I went to Toga, which I'm going to show you on the PFD, I went to Toga and we got SRS, which is fine, and then here it went to go around track. Now, modern Airbuses will go to nav straight away and they'll fly that missed approach track. But what we ended up with was go around track where it just levels the wings and just flies the track you're on. Now that isn't a problem in lots of places, but here, that's the last thing we want, because we went around on this leg, so we ended up pointing, the wings just went level, you'd point straight at these hills and get a GPWS. So that's no good at all, so you would need it to have nav in the go around, so that it would automatically keep flying that turn. You'd also have to limit the speed in that turn, because you don't want it to accelerate too fast, because if it's flying too fast, it won't be able to bank enough to fly around the turn and stay clear of the terrain. So there's loads of considerations about flying an RF and RMPAR approach. Right, at some point I will let the controller know what we're doing. Let's see, can we come left yet? So they want us to be 160 knots, so let's not make the same mistake again. Let's go manage speed. That's the one. Yeah, I'm not sure I can blame the aircraft for that. We just weren't ready. We were just too fast. I did activate the approach, so why have we not got the scales? What approach is it? Oh no, uniform. Which I would expect it to have the same scales as before, so I might retune that. I know 3's are uniform. No star, insert. Flight plan.
Oscar Delta Tango, your feedback was correct information, Yankee.
Not sure what's going on here now. That's very odd. We've only got the go around track in here.
Oscar Delta Tango, you're hot micing.
I'm not entirely sure. Let's go into the secondary. The secondary's got that, so let's activate the secondary. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. Now we've got it back. So we had to activate the secondary. I'm not sure. That's not. I'm not sure why it did that. So that goes to the 992, 991, 990. I mean, that doesn't actually have all the points we want. Let's change that to R930 uniform via Suda insert VG996 insert. There we go. Right, so we need to be 160 knots by the time we get round there. We're currently flat 1 S speed. This is looking a bit calmer. Captain Geo, thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good day. We just had a bit of fun going around into Faroe. Right, so now this says 4,000 feet at 996. So this VDO scale, I'm hoping, will level off at 4,000 feet. But we need to be slow at 160 knots when we get there, because, as we know from last time, that is a bit trickier than we thought to get down. This last bit happens very quickly. Oh, there's traffic ahead of us. Interesting. Not sure why that's descending. Worth checking the coding is here. Like I say, sadly in the Airbus, the ToLiss, we can't check. It should say 3.6 degrees. So this wants us to be at 992 at 19 to 10.
The winds have now changed 17 degrees at 7 knots, and runway 12 is now preferred.
Roger, Manta 229. Oh my goodness.
There's a DHL 767-300 on final for runway 21.
Roger, Manta 229. Well, that would mean using the RS here with the localizer only.
Walker 267, Roger, descend 2,000
oh dear.
To information Yankee, QNH983.
Let's see, is there a hold we can go to? Mycomb holding, which is based on the MY NDB. So we could go to that hold and then fly in. Oh man, that is a really bad runway model though. We'll have a bit of fun trying to land on that. But what we don't want to do then is carry on with this approach, because we're not going to make that. And there's now a bit of a tailwind, 170. Okay.
866, I think you were calling for clearance. I don't have your flight plan. Please refine.
Right, we have the fuel. We still got 4.8 tons. That's fine. Let's sort this out. We don't want to carry on with this approach then. We're not going to make it in with that tailwind. The other runway's favoured now, and there's someone on approach to it. So what we'll do is head over to the other way. TT Spectre, yeah, this is it's turning into one of those days, as I said at the start. Manta 229, we'd like to do the localizer for runway 12 in this case. Can we route to the Mike Yankee to hold?
Manta 229, it's all at your own discretion. You're in uncontrolled airspace. This is an AFIS position. The traffic is currently heading away from Glasgow, it seems that way. World Express 161, confirm you're still on final for runway 12.
Yeah, we just have a few problems here with the aircraft wanting to do stuff.
Manta 229, roger. Traffic 767 300. Turn and final for runway 12. Join behind.
Roger, Manta 229, we're routing to the Mike Yankee to then fly the localizer for runway 12. Okay. Right. So, yeah, the landing here is going to be something. I mean, it's almost impossible, so we shall see. But we won't worry about that for now. We'll do that later on. And what we're going to do is sort out this approach. So, has it got the weather in? No. He said, oh, I won't change it to the real weather because I know that actually we need to put in 997. Temperature was 11. And the wind, he said 170. Gives about 8 knots. Good. MDA 820. That goes in there. Now, this is going to be a thirsty approach as well. How are we doing for fuel? We have to divert. Ah, we lost the alternate, so let's make sure we got that in. Better check that chart. Alternate needs 2.9 tonnes of fuel. So 2.9, 3.9, 4.9. So we've probably got another tonne spare to land with a tonne. So yeah, we've got about a tonne spare. So that's fine. Right. We're heading to the Mike Yankee. D327. 4 miles out. Round. Then it's going to fly left. Head in, Charlie Lima 12, Mike Yankee, all at 3,700, then it's going to join the 3-2 localizer, 1,500 feet, sorry 3.2 at 1,500 feet, it says 1,400 there, so 1,480, yeah, okay. Note 1, for minimum out on the descent profile, see table above, so we're going to need to follow these, this could get tricky on my own, that's where you definitely need another pilot. And yeah, 60FO, thanks for joining us. Yeah, we're not catching a break today. Right, so what we're going to do is we're not going to hold it at the Mike Yankee. We're going to head outbound. We're going to do this procedural turn. So this is quite common because I don't want to join the hold just for no reason. We're going to head. This would be if you were overhead the airport, you could head out around this turn and back in onto the localizer. So I'm going to report beacon outbound from the Mike Yankee for the localizer only. Let's get rid of all these other charts. I'm not doing that anymore. Oh, I really didn't want to approach this runway because it's really bad and really bad. The upslope is remarkable. It's an offset localizer, so we're going to come in. I'm going to need to do a left turn then a right turn. It also did give me GPWS warnings when I did it earlier, so we shall see. Let's check the RadNav. 108, 1091. Yeah, 1091. 111 course, 110 close enough in there. We're doing an ILS, so we need the ILS buttons turned on. There we go. It looks good to head outbound. Starting the procedure at 37.
866. Never mind then.
Start the turn at 1 minute. So we should fly outbound for 1 minute and then turn in.
Pixum to Charlie departure, runway 19. Climb initially, fly
okay.
290.
3,700 is safe here. Radio altimeter is alive. That's because there's a hill beneath us at this point. Vertical speed 3,700 feet. And that's because, as you can see on the chart, there's a hill beneath us right now. Good evening, window seats. You're joining us in the middle of a complete, an amazing approach. We had so many changes now. So it'll be 3,700, then we'll fly around. and I'm going to start my descent from 3,700 feet at the outer marker, which is 8.8 miles. So I want to be fully configured by 9.1, at which point, or 9. Let's make it fully configured at 10, and then at 9.1 I'm going to pull that flight path angle. And where's the flight path angle? They haven't bothered to add it for us here. Where is it? Why am I missing that? Why is it missing that?
Taxi 12900, taxi holding point 1 way 0.
It's just got minimum altitudes. It's quite an old style approach that, not to have a continuous descent angle. Well, let's see, 3 to 4 miles. 1 mile is 400 feet. It's 400 feet per mile, so it's probably similar to the other end, actually. Right, well, we'll keep outbound a bit. It's giving us more space. It's safe over the sea. Where is the angle written? God, this is an unusual airport. You would need some extra training to go here, definitely, and you'd certainly want to know more than I do. This is very unusual charts. Number 1, the minimum out on the central velocity table above. Yeah, we've got the minimum altitudes, but what's the angle? If any of you guys can see it, you let me know. I wonder what was. Yeah, they're going around as well.
Express 161, roger. Traffic is an A321 and turn in.
So this one per mile, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that's about 3.6. So I think we're going to need to try about 3.6 and then monitor it closely. Goodness me. Goodness me. Right, turning rounds.
Taxi 167 behind the company, focus 50.
Arc. Yeah, traceability could be ending up there. I think it's about, yeah, 3.5 degrees, yeah. Again, that's really unusual. You should always end up, they'd always give you the angle these days. I'm really surprised. I don't know what sort of chart we're expected to fly here. Local DME 12, maybe you normally fly the RMP. Maybe that's simpler, because the RMP is set to what? Yeah, 3.5, yeah, 3.5, 400 feet between them. Let's go with that. Is the RMP straight in? No, the RMP is offset as well. Good, well we'll keep with the localizer as we brief that, and we'll just have to monitor these altitudes, so I'm going to have that chart up there. Let's get ourselves round in and arm that localizer, and then carry on from there. I suspect you just fly the RNAV. I can't see why anyone of you would do this. Doing alright for fuel. We're back at 190 knots with our slats out. Go around from here. Let's check that that is coded in. Flight plan. Set that to plan. Yeah, that is in there. So same again. We're going to do nav and then get it to go straight ahead and then a right turn away from the hills. And it actually comes back round to the Mike Yankee to hold. Altitude for that 3,700 is all it gives us. Yep. So 3,700. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if this approach is hideous. It just doesn't work in the simulator. So I don't know if we're going to do this or not, or whether we'll end up having to come back in another way. So we're going to start our descent at 10 miles. So that's about 8 miles from now. So that's fine. We've got loads of room there. Got our chart here. Got the engine anti-ice on. Sitting just about in the bottom of the cloud at 10 degrees.
Oscar Delta Tango, sorry about the delay. Startup is approved, GNH 983, call ready for taxi.
Window seat, just woken up, must be getting old. Did an early start. Yeah, oh well, I hope you had a good nap, window seats. Hi Dimitri. Book my time for watching later. Yeah, there's loads going on. Excellent. Right, so here we go. We're coming straight in now. We're onto the localizer. 16 miles, that's reasonable. There's localizer. It's armed straight away. There we go. Right, let's not mess this up. Thanks for the subscription to Horace Plummer. Thanks for joining us. Right, flaps to 2. Let's get this airplane slowed down. Don't have to do that again.
50, backtrack runway 01, Fox 8167.
Manta 229 is now currently 15-mile final for runway 12.
Days in around you are number 1. Winds are 17 degrees 7 knots. One way is free.
Can you confirm that was for Manta 229?
Manta 229. Sorry about that. My mistake. Winds are 17 degrees. Correction. New winds 18 degrees 8 knots. One way 12 is free.
Thank you. We are now 14 miles inbound for runway 12, Manta 229. Gear down, flaps to 3, arm the spoilers, let's not mess this up again. Good, let's get that chart up so we know what we're doing. Okay, flaps can go to full shortly. A lot of drag though, we don't need it just yet. I'm going to set that to track FPA, and I'm going to, when we're 1 mile from descending, which is at 8.8, as we said, 9.8, I'm going to arm the FPA that I need.
Scandinavian 1872. You found the flight plan too carefully. You might want to change that.
Oh yes, we were changing Scandinavian 1872.
Thank you.
Sorry, file line 402.
There we go.
Please, 19.
Wow, this is turning into an epic flight.
Also to do taxi rolling flight 19 at the November 14 and November 4.
November 14, November
Should change.
File line 402.
No.
19, thank you.
Echo.
161. Report your position and intention.
1, 2. That's in there now. Right.
No idea where we are.
Sounds like the World Express is having trouble as well. I know the weather's good enough to get in because I've made it so that's the only advantage we've got here. Right, so 8.8, 9.8, I can set that and we'll go to flat full.
World Express 161, roger.
We'll go to flat full about half a mile before we go down.
Find somewhere to open. There's traffic at around approximately 8 mile final for runway 12.
So we said we're going to start with 3.5 degrees because it seems to be steep at about 400 feet per mile. Let's do 3.5.
161, there's traffic on final for runway 12. So if you want
Right, half a mile before, so that's going to be 9.2. Flaps to full. There's a radio altimeter, that's because of the terrain beneath us, which is fine. And at 9.1, pull. And then we get our FPA 3.5, so we're starting down at about 8.8, which we are. Okay, we got the going actually to 3,700 in 8 miles on 3,300 feet. Luckily, we do get this green dot, which will give us some idea if this is working out or not. When we go visual, I'm going to have to do a slight left turn to get on the centre line and the right turn. I'm not going to do that sharply, just because there's going to be the hills to our left. If we get the GPWS, guys, in real life you would always follow it, but I'm going to not follow it today, purely because I think it would be sorted out in the database to make sure it didn't happen. Right, I missed the 8 miles, but 7 miles, 2,900. Looks like we're coming in on the profile.
We'll be aware of the traffic, Foxy 167.
Walker 267 via the elbow.
So we're fully configured. There's your arms. Okay, 7 miles, a little bit high. Should be at 2,900. Yeah, so weirdly that profile showing us on profile, but I don't think we are. So we need to go to 4 degrees.
Oh god, US go no crash.
6 miles, 2,500. So that could need to even be 4.5. I mean, that's getting really steep.
Just fine. By the Balak transition, clear ILS, Zulu 1-way 19.
Let's try 4.5. This is ludicrous. You'd never know that. 6 miles, 2,500 feet is what we wanted. We've made that almost. Let's set that back to, let's try 3.6 again, like the other end. 5 miles, 2,100 feet. Okay, there we are, breaking out the cloud, and we are visual.
Report you requested MAC number and flight level version.
Okay, 5 miles, 2,200, yes, it needs about at least 4 degrees. 4.2, this is madness.
Scandinavian 1872, confirm flight number 350.
4 miles, 1,700 feet. That's 2,000 feet, fully configured and stable.
Airline 402, ready for immediate departure.
Negative, airline 402.
Typical cabin crew.
Yes, that's the cabin crew.
Man.
Cabin crew.
Right, okay, well we are visual, and now you guys can watch how difficult this is. So autopilot off, flight directors off, we've got the bird, let's set it in at 120, and we're going to keep coming down. It's just such a steep approach, so we're going to gently move over to that centre line without pointing too close to those hills on the left. Cabin needs to do. Last I was told the runway is clear. Right, let's keep it coming down. Yeah, what an amazing approach this must be for people to fly. I can't believe how much traffic there is here. 3 miles, 1,300. Well, we're way below that already now.
It seems like the visibility is becoming quite a challenge. Both of them have gone around and they're attempting new approaches.
Oh dear, I'm going to have to admit what I've done with the with the weather here.
Copied, when ready to send 5100. We are tentatively planning the RNF uniform.
Just because I'm not going to go and fly all the way over there. Oh, that's interesting. 3 reds on 1 and 2 reds, 2 whites. So what you guys will see here is I'm going to get a little bit low because I can't make it work otherwise, and then we're going to touch down on the top of the hill because there's no other way. Okay, wind is from the right. So it shouldn't be 4 reds, but the simulator's got this wrong, I'm convinced. So let's keep coming down. And I've done this before, and it's so ridiculous, this slope. Look at that. Impossible. Right, max reverse. Pass and do 70 knots. Reverses to idle. My goodness. That is going to look rough on the video. Okay, we're taking over on the brakes. I don't think there's a turning point here. There's a wet runway though. One of those days where it's nice to be on the ground anyway. Right.
Behind the departing Faroe Islands, Atlantic Airways, A321.
Can't believe all the traffic here. I think he's doing Iceland as well by the sounds of it. Right, we'll use this as a turning circle. I'm not sure if it is, but it looks like one. So we will take everything we can today. Let's get ourselves back round and in. Keep that speed under control. Going to go to forward idle because I'm going to need some thrust to get up this hill. Airplanes do not like hills on the ground, as I've said before. They will. I think it just rolls backwards actually in this simulator. Right, welcome to Faro. Finally, my goodness, that took quite a way. No, 60 FO. There's no way that's what the slope is. It's definitely overdone. Now, what can happen? Yeah, as I said, we had to make the weather better to make it work, but that probably isn't doable today. I'm not sure if there's any real flights there today, how they're getting in. Right, we're going to go back up and take the right turn. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was definitely one of our more eventful approaches. So yeah, the first one was definitely, if we had just got slowed down in time, we could have got in on that first one probably. But then the wind changed and you end up with the other one, and that is not, you know, these things happen. Stuff does all happen around you. I tell you, I'm glad you joined in, just to see the excitement at the end there. And we got to do, I mean, this runway this way isn't as bad, but oh my goodness, yeah, the coding there. Thank you, taxi stand 3, Manta 229. Stand 3.
167 passing 9,000.
Which means, in here, perfect. Oh my goodness, yeah, I'm looking forward to parking up on that stand. So let's get ourselves off the runway. Look at that, spectacular. So this is default scenery, but yeah, really good. I think X-Plane's done a really nice job, especially the rocks on the steeper cliff faces. Right, slow it down. 20 knots is too fast. We'll have fun with the replay of that. It's going to be that would have been a firm feeling landing anyway. Okay, get that AP up and running, because when it's a really short taxi to stand, you would definitely make sure you got that running early, because you don't want to be sitting on the stand when the engine's running for no reason.
I like to move it.
It's a little bit wasteful, but also it means the
What?
I think it's upset I'm taking so long. Stand 3. Let's check we get stand 3. I'll do the lights and the flaps in a second. Let's stand 4. Not sure we can fit onto that stand. We'll try our best. Probably take 2 marshallers. We're going to be very close to this Scandinavian. Get the lights off. Flaps to 0.
Start the engine left here.
Okay, so you'd have a marshaller probably one here and then one over there, or maybe just one over here. Very close to that one. Disarm those spoilers as well. And let's see where we are. You definitely have a marshaller to do this sort of stunt. Again, this is where I explain, you know, these are default airports and they've got all of this extra stuff on, like these turning pads and the stand numbering, which is really good. I mean, it looks like we should stop here, but I have no idea what that other Scandinavian would do. I suppose is why you can't have a 321. So what we'll do is let's move forward to give them a chance. Right, AP is available. These last lights should definitely go off. Don't think the engine anti-ice anymore. Just give them a chance to get out of the way. Right, parking brake is now set. The APU is available. So did we do the afterlanders? Flat 0, spoilers, those will go to transponder, but now we parked, it can go to 2000. To buy, the radar should be off absolutely by now. That would go off. Again, pilot monitoring would have done all this as you parked up. And right, let's shut down. Get those seatbelts off. Finally, for our passengers will be desperate to leave the airplane by now, I'm sure. Get the N1s nice and slow. Get rid of the beacon. Okay, here we are. Right, I won't disturb the controller again to disconnect. They've done a fantastic job for us today. So, disconnecting from them, and let's go and have a look at the replay. Welcome very much to the Faroe Islands. We're going to have even more fun trying to get out again. So let's have a look at the replay of that. Obviously, this is a long flight. Wow, 2 hours 50. Thanks for sticking with it, guys. So here we go. Final approach. As you can see, you come down this valley, nice and steep. I'm not sure what that flight angle is, and I'm not sure why it's not shown on the chart. In hindsight, we should have just done another RNAV approach. We didn't get GPWS, so that was nice. So we flew down the valley, which seemed to go okay. And then you can see that slope, which is madness. A bit through the centre line there. Let's have one from the outside, then we'll do the normal threshold. Or maybe do tower view. This is going to be rough, yeah. Dunk. Still in the touchdown zone, just, which is nice. And then getting those medium auto brakes and max reverse. Especially bad because you're now trying to decelerate rolling downhill, which is really quite nasty. Yeah, four-wheel drive might be needed for the departure Dougal, absolutely. Vladimir, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And Jerry, thanks for coming along. Yeah, we will revisit this in the new Microsoft Flight Simulator and have a look and see what's different. I wonder how their runway slopes are. I haven't seen much information on that. That would be really interesting. They are very sloped, says Slam Cannon, but not that extreme in real life. Yeah, exactly. 60 FO, it's 319s flying to here mostly. So yeah, so that's how it is. Wojtek had an easier approach. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad you guys have seen it before. So that's no problem, Mr. Espresso. It's my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it, and it's good to show you guys. Now, admittedly, we messed up that first approach, and that's how easy it is in this job. You can go from totally calm and you've briefed and you've talked about it, and then if you just miss something, if you let yourself get distracted, it can go wrong very quickly. And what you've got to do in that situation is it's the the right thing. We couldn't carry on. That was not a stable approach, so we have to bin it. And that's what we did, and off we go. That's why I took extra fuel, specifically because I thought this is a more challenging approach. There are more chances that we don't. Yeah, the slope here, Avia Man, is absolutely ridiculous. As we said, we don't think this is quite realistic. Right, let's get ourselves back in the air. What are we going to do? Let's maybe stick to our normal. Let's go for. Let's get back in the air. Go for the view external runway. Yeah, so it's good to show you guys that it's not always it's everything's safe, but you'd have to work harder some days than others. There's no doubt about it. As you'd expect, really. I'm sure you can understand that when you're flying around aircraft, because so many things around you can change. Runway changes are a huge increase in workload. If it's before takeoff, it's new performance, new briefing, new MSAs, new style of approach. And here, you'd need to build in some time and have a go. So here we go, the view from the outside. Looks like the landing lights aren't showing, but I think they were on. What'll be interesting actually, let's have a look. Yeah, let's have a look at the pitch on landing, because the pitch is 7.5 degrees. I reckon we probably had to go above that in X-Plane to make this work. Let's see.
50, 40, 30.
There's 7.5. So we landed, yeah, that was 9. But we know that because of that slope, that's not actually the pitch in relation to the ground. But yeah, it's just interesting. Right, that's it, guys. I'm going to leave you to your evenings. Thank you for putting up with this for so long. It's been one of our longer ones. So we'll do our usual. I think a view from here should be suitable. And what we'll do is we'll play the outro music, and I'll thank you all very much for taking the time to come along and watch. And I will see you again in another stream soon, or maybe some more videos soon, and of course in the new Flight Simulator when it does come out. Thank you very much. Keep safe, keep well, and we'll see you in another video soon. Thank you.